like to call the September 26, 2024 Planning Board session to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finity. The
Present.
Secretary is here. Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, we have a full board. Can you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I haven't seen John here for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So item number 1 is a work session.
May I interrupt? We have minutes from 9/12,
Oh, sorry, Gloria. Yes, minutes,
from September 12th.
September 12th. Motion to approve by Kate, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor. Okay, I'm closing the afternoon meeting and going into a work session with Kajowski Family Farm. Welcome.
Good afternoon. The Kajowski Family Farm was a subdivision that was approved, I believe it's 2006. And you can see it up there on the aerial. It's those 4 or 5, I apologize, 5 residential lots and then a large agricultural open space parcel for which the development rights were transferred off. Because the subdivider had intended to continue to farm the property for some time. The town board and the planning board had agreed to accept property as escrow for the improvements. However, the property owner now is looking to sell the entirety of the subdivision, and the current contract vendee is going to post a performance bond rather than having properties held in escrow. So we're just here today to confirm that that's the way you would like to proceed, and if you had any questions, to ask those questions.
Procedurally, that's clear. That's how we would have to do it.
Yes, or your other option is to take the properties as escrow again from the new owner. But it becomes complicated and it kicks the can further down the road, and it costs more to do the improvements. It's almost a $300,000 increase in improvements based on the most recent estimate we got from the town engineer.
It's double that actually.
Actually, did I look at it wrong?
I think it
Okay.
went from 4 to 970,000.
Could you,
So they're selling off the lots now separately while maintaining the farm for farming purposes? Am I getting that correctly?
The farm's preserved with farming rights on there, so there will be a farm continuing. Our client is purchasing the residential lots and including the roadway, and there's a drainage area. And he would intend to put in the roadway.
So our action here, I mean, just to have a discussion because it's a work session, has council been advised about this?
We've discussed this
You have?
prior to this, yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted the board to be aware of it, and
Yeah.
Were there any restrictions at the time? I remember the subdivision when I was town engineer. That, I think the rationale behind this subdivision, the 5 parcels from the farm itself, was, and I could be wrong. It's been a while, but it was supposed to be for family members to have a place to build when that time comes. Were there any kind of restrictions put on at the time for that, or it was just left that it could be sold off?
They were actively.
it could be sold off, but except for the 2 properties that were in escrow, but one was sold off anyway. But I think it went to a family member, if
Yes,
that matters.
And there was in the covenants that they could transfer those lots to family members. Maybe that's what you're recalling. That was in there, and which they did, and they're all selling and we're purchasing them all.
So it wasn't a sale, it was just a deed transfer.
I believe so.
Yeah, we
amongst the
represent the Kajowski family, and they had some internal things going on. But it's still all within the Kajowski.
So how's the zoning
So the town engineer did give us an estimate for a performance bond, an updated performance bond, and the applicant's attorney indicated that they're willing to post the required security. I'm not sure what that mechanism would be. Would it be a CD or?
Right now, it would be a CD. That's what we proposed.
So
Is that sufficient? Or-
Yeah, and we're gonna have an agreement so that everybody is bound until such time as it legally transfers.
okay, so
And after.
I didn't put it on the agenda, but there is a draft resolution, and I realized it didn't save the date, the one date that had the letter indicating that the contract vendor was going to be putting up the bond. But that's easy enough to amend. So I do have a draft resolution. If you're willing to
Well,
again
can
allow
bring
for
it back after we get out of work session, because we
Okay.
can't vote on anything.
that. Yes, apologies, but I'll
Yeah.
just let it get
Well,
past
why
that.
don't,
Thank you. So it's lots sold to one entity.
Well, no.
All fine.
One umbrella.
Checkerboard.
Yes, there's multiple entities that will be purchasing multiple properties, family members of our client. The roadway, the drainage area will be in the same entity, as will one or two of the other lots, including the larger farm area.
Well, what, are you planning any improvements before you convey? I mean, typically on common driveway applications, as you recall, we require a certain level of improvements before lots can be conveyed.
That's part of our request here, is because the prior approval and the covenants required that no lots could be sold until the roadway was put in with those improvements. So that's part of what we're asking for here, is to allow that to occur, to transfer to our client, who will then take the responsibility and put in the roadway.
At just one time. So it's our family, my client's family, essentially transferring the entire subdivision to his family, although they're gonna checkerboard the lots in different names and entities. But I think the restriction would still apply to any further development until they deal with the road issue.
That's my understanding as
is it
well.
in an easement? Are those restrictions covered in an easement?
Yes, there's a recorded covenant.
And how would those lots be encumbered? Here's what happens. One of these lots, we get someone who comes to file a building permit. I spent $1 million for this lot. How do I get in here? Now the town has to scramble, and where's the bond, where's the road, where's the improvements, where's the public water, the fire, and so forth.
The covenants already provide for that. And so that's why, what we're really asking for is the one exception, because normally our clients couldn't transfer these lots until we built the road out. We're just asking for one exception so that we can transfer the entirety of the subdivision to a new family who will substitute the bond and who will take on the obligation to build the road before they could then transfer the properties to individuals.
So this is a one-time transfer
One-time
with
transfer.
checkerboarding.
Right, and there's already a recorded covenant in place that lays out all the requirements of having to do the roadway and the common driveway improvements prior to any would be further sale of the individual lots.
And that was what Christine was speaking to, is to have that agreement in place that says that it encumbers the purchaser to actually put in the road.
Put in the road.
And I'm adding that as a condition of the approval would be subject to review and approval of the town attorney's office of that agreement.
Does this resolution address that?
I'm adding
we'll
it.
be amending it.
I'm adding
You
it.
meant- You're amending it,
So,
okay.
all right, so why don't you take this back then?
Okay.
And we'll deal with it later. Wayne, did you just
I
listening?
was just
or are
gonna,
you-
maybe it might be helpful to the gentleman, but I was representing the Kioski family when you did the subdivision, and this is the one unique provision in the code where you have a public improvement that is not required by this board to bond with a letter of credit or other acceptable surety. It provides for a farm family instance that they can encumber lots because the intent was that the lots were supposedly, or the property would be continued to be farmed. So what you're actually doing is, there is a performance bond agreement in this agreement that's recorded and accepted by the town board. They're asking to substitute a new agreement with the new purchasers.
New purchaser, yeah,
I think and to continue,
with the
and you'll
same.
correct me, is the lots as this surety,
No,
or
no.
are you
No,
substituting
no,
a
we're
new
substituting,
letter of credit?
yeah, we're not gonna
It's gonna be
deal
more
with the
traditional.
lots.
Separate.
This will
So
be
that
the
was what
traditional
intent
proposal.
was once the lots were intended to be built on, that the deeds would be released, and then they would put an appropriate letter of credit or others, proper security, and I guess that's what town
Yeah.
attorney's saying.
Thank you,
No,
Lee.
our
Thank
client
you.
intends to put the road in, the cost of that's only going to go up, as we've seen, it's already more than doubled. So that would be finished, signed off on by engineering, and there's already an offer of dedication for the roadway and the drainage area to the town. So once those improvements are completed, then the town board, with your, I believe, approval, would accept those into the town.
Any other questions?
Can you just, on the overhead map, orient us to some notable areas? Because I know, like,
Well, immediately
there's
to
a lot of
the-
food production farming in that area, so my leading question is, what does the easement look like? Is that enhanced or?
Well, what do you mean for easement?
Well, the farmland area.
It's a
The far-
traditional.
It's an ag open space parcel for which the development rights were purchased by the town.
Right, which is the traditional
And those
language
four
of
parcels.
agricultural production pursuant to, I believe it's 301 of the Ag and Markets.
Yep.
So it's all traditional crops,
Okay, thanks.
which that's going on now. There's a farmer on there that we're continuing with as well.
Okay, what's he growing?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Teresa, thank you for coming. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you all.
We'll close the work session and go into the afternoon session. Number 2, Hampton Bays District, Grebesky Airport PDD Phase 2, Claire.
The trees are better.
Trees are much better. So I had identified 6 trees, 2 deciduous, four deciduous and 2 evergreens that needed to be replaced. They actually went to site and they replaced 11 of them. So that site is now in order and we can release the bond here. Of course, when I went by, the site that we had released in July, one died.
I saw.
And I told
I
them,
wasn't gonna mention that, but I did notice it.
well, if you drive by, you notice it, right? They said they would replace that, no problem. So we're just gonna have to monitor it because those types of pitch pines are gonna go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And
So
then-
I'm asking them to kind of replace them with white pines, unfortunately, which is not native, but at least don't need fertilizer or anything special like that. So
No other kinds of trees available?
we're trying to go for an evergreen. So
Yeah.
cedars would work,
Right.
and then maybe in the future evergreens.
Hollies?
Are the white pines susceptible to attack by the?
Yeah,
No,
they're not.
they're not.
Hmm.
So, but they're not
Yeah, I
technically
understand,
native.
but yeah.
So, but it's not extensively pines either. There's a good mix.
There's a good mix.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll monitor it. We still have them in the process a little bit.
So what's the maintenance
This would
bond?
be to release the maintenance bond of $56,700.
Okay, motion by Dennis, seconded by
I'll second.
Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor. And playground school,
Yeah, they're here. Do we want them to come up and
Sure.
just go through the staff report?
Yeah.
Give it to you. This would be for decision next meeting, but I just wanted to go through it and make sure everything is in order. This is basically a modification of course, of the staff report, of the site plan. There was a building about 5,900 square feet that they were originally proposing, and now they are putting an addition for a library in
Yep,
the
so-
basement, right?
is there,
Oh, no, we don't have Joe yet?
You stuck here, Joe.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're
Yeah,
great. You're
that's-
great. Come on up. So I'll just go through this. I don't want to belabor it. I think you've looked at it a couple
Right.
times.
just let me have your name for the record,
Oh, this is
please.
the library.
You've got the report. You can
I'm
more
sorry.
copies.
Your name for the
Anthony
record.
Hitchcock. I'm
Anthony,
treasurer of Playground.
and,
And I'm Vincent Gordiello. I'm a principal at the Rayner Group.
okay. Claire?
So the square footage now, it's a site plan for 6,933 square foot classroom. That's total. The footprint is still 3,047 square feet. And it's for classroom space in a library for an existing school on the 12.76 acre parcel. And the development shown, the secret that was originally done back in March of 2018. And when you deemed it complete, you found that it was consistent with the application. At the public hearing, there was some comments from neighbors. They support the school, but they're concerned with the traffic and parking on Butter Lane associated with the Soul Cycle and Equinox and the school committee parking on the school property on weekends. Did you have anything to address about that issue? I know you were going to speak.
I certainly can clarify how this came about. Soul Cycle is a neighbor, and they have very little on-site parking, but a lot of customers, good for them. They approached us and asked if overflow parking could take place in our paved parking lot. And we said yes. We entered into an agreement, and we received money for that agreement. And I'm not aware, but I don't have day-to-day contact with neighbors or Soul Cycle customers, excuse me, but I'm not aware of issues that have come up. During the week, occasionally, lots of people, so maybe it's not occasionally, use our driveway as a thoroughfare to get from Mitchell Lane to Butter Lane or vice versa. And short of putting up gates, which we never wanted to do, we don't do that. We do have a secure fence gate between Soul Cycle's property and ours, and so we have control over who can come in, walking in to get to their cars, but we have very little control over the drive-through.
Right. Well, the issue that was raised at the public hearing was that there are a lot of cars parking on the road.
Butter Lane, right?
On Butter Lane,
Right.
and not coming into the paved driveway. So perhaps that can be a conversation that you have a contract with them.
We certainly do, but we've been told, and I may be mistaken, that we cannot control parking on the public portion of the road. I think it's 20 or 30 feet in from the edge, the paved edge of Butter Lane.
That's
So
correct.
I'm not certain how we would control that. Because
We
I
had
don't
suggested
believe
that
they're violating the law.
we had suggested that the residents that were concerned about the parking on Butter Lane speak to the town engineer, who's responsible for enacting, reviewing and enacting parking regulations on town roads. I don't know if that conversation ever took place, but
I don't know
yeah,
either, but
you
we
do
would
not, you
certainly
don't have
be
the
open
authority
to
to
that.
do that, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
town engineer does,
Yeah.
or the town board.
Again, I believe the issue that was raised at the hearing relates to the parking that is within the public right of way.
Yes.
And though it's adjacent to our property, I don't know what the actions or the comments were by the public. Maybe they were pushing us to complain to the town and get them, so there is no parking there, but it doesn't appear that the parking in the right of way is the result of our operation, but more of the community and others. And I would say, in as far as Hayground School goes, that as far as the requirements or restrictions for parking within the right of way adjacent to our site, that, we don't have any opposition to that.
I think one of their concerns was when they heard that there was going to be additional buildings, that you may be adding more students, and that was a concern which was alleviated when clearly that's not the case. And I think I'm going to agree that they probably they had an open forum to complain about traffic,
Absolutely.
since they came for another reason.
Right, okay, good.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
And I
so,
have one oddball question from long ago.
Yeah.
Is there a swale on this property to the north? And this is not going to impact it at all?
oh,
right?
I don't know that. Town engineer just had comments about some contours being relabeled, but I don't think there was any issues with the site itself.
Certainly visually, there isn't a swale. There is a swale further north.
Maybe it's further north, but I remember that swale because it impacts so much of coming down onto Butter.
Did you guys want the plans?
It's just a question of secret, maybe
Yeah,
it was in secret.
I think we're gonna have a problem with that because of these plans. Topographic information is not
It's
provided
not on it?
because of the fact that we're at a
where we are in the phase of the project, but I stand corrected.
No, there's, there
Yeah,
definitely is, because you're doing that, that little amphitheater too, right?
Right. There is no swales that I would describe or categorize as swales on the plan. We, primarily the flow of stormwater is to this area of the site. So it actually comes down like that, and it's more or less along those lines. Our intent here is to retain all stormwater generated as a result of impervious surfaces on our property.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just that sometimes when one is excavating into a swale, it completely upsets the flow and then engineering. So I just raise
Not
it.
in that area, but they're excavating, obviously, for that one classroom is gonna have or the area is
Cantilever
gonna
and
have the exposed roads, right, with the amphitheater. Okay.
Maybe we can just take a look at the old secret reports and see if that was.
Yeah, I'll take a look at
Yeah.
secret, no problem. Absolutely.
Okay.
Do that for the next meeting, and then the town engineer, as I said, he has some notation corrections with the contours, but otherwise he recommended approval. The ARB recommended approval. The memo from the Department of Public Safety, street numbers, key boxes, vehicle impact protection for the EV charging stations. I recommended no issues. Virginia Fire District, no issues. Health Department, no response to date. Suffolk County Departments of Planning, local determination, Highway Department, no issues, and there is no Bridgehampton CAC.
What about the, any kind of septic?
They're doing an
They're gonna
IA.
do an IA.
An IA.
system. Yeah, so that's great. I did mention that under drainage coming up. So there's no change to access. The parking too, there's no changes. School enrollment is not proposed to change. And then I do say something about the, I did suggest here, if we wanna make it, you could actually do recommendation to the town board also about looking at the parking along there, town board and Tom, then town engineer, so that's up to you.
Like no standing or whatever,
Yeah,
that sort
just
of thing.
maybe just have it looked at,
Mhm.
you know, cause it seems from the report that there's a problem in the summer, you
Yeah.
know, along Butter Lane, so that might be a suggestion, if
Mhm.
you wanna do that for
Yeah,
the
I
next
think it's a
meeting?
good idea.
Sounds good, no
The-
additional.
The folks that are walking from Soul Cycle to the school, are they just walking along Butter Lane? Is that
What is some sense?
how
It's,
far?
well, if they have already parked their car on our paved parking lot, the gate is open that permits them to walk through the hedgerow. So I don't think they, but that would assume they've already parked.
Walking along the street is what I was kind of
Yeah,
a little
I don't-
concerned about.
I mean, I can't speak for the cars that are parked on Butter Lane, cause you would assume
Right.
that they would walk along the street, but I don't know.
But if some, parking restrictions maybe take care of that problem, and I just didn't want
Yeah.
from your lot to Soul Cycle be along the street. But you're saying that wouldn't be the most direct
No,
route.
it is the most direct if they come through the hedge to
Right.
our paved parking lot, but not, we hope that we can remediate the other issue.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
There's no real landscaping changes, there are 3 trees, in the vicinity of the building, and they're gonna be relocated onto the site. Pavements, they're showing the walkways, being constructed of similar materials. Lighting, the applicant presented lighting, they're all 3,000 Kelvin or less. Just showing the specifications as a condition, typical, standards I've inserted here with no dust dome lighting fixtures. So the building themselves, is pretty modern design, it's very similar to what was approved before. Do you want us to take a peek at it, or? So, it's the design, and of course the ARB has approved it.
Mhm.
And then drainage, the town engineer, of course. And the public utilities, there's public water, and they're proposing a standard tier system to be IA. No public address system without further review and approval by the planning board. Handicap spaces are indicated in the site plan, and then energy conservation, they have many components here. I did put your standard language in here.
Yes.
But they're including 6 EV charging stations and solar panels on the roof. They're proposing geothermal as an energy source for the building.
Great.
And the construction materials and practices will be used that will reduce the carbon footprint of the building.
This is good.
Thank you. We think so.
Exactly. And then I just do an explanation of that it's in the ag overlay district and the protection overlay district, that it's a disturbed property and it was formerly a farm. So, based on that, I'll do a resolution for this.
Can you own the conditions, Claire? Just the standard?
There's pretty standard conditions,
Yeah.
but I'll give it to them ahead of time and
Yeah.
I'll give it to the
Okay.
board ahead of time and we'll review it for the next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Traffic is backed up to Bridgehampton on the Montauk Highway.
Now?
Yeah.
Now,
What's
I don't know
happened?
why, but I ended up bailing, coming around Scuttle
They
I
had
wonder
the
if there was
PC
an
Richards
accident.
Yesterday, they had the PC Richards roll over and resolve.
Yeah, the truck rolled over.
Oh, they did? Oh.
But that was in the
That's my
morning.
espionage report.
Good.
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Tom, make note.
Okay, we're moving on
It was fine when
to,
I came through.
um,
talk about
number 435 Montauk.
Yeah, I think I have someone here for the final one. This is for the BMW. This is 35 Montauk Highway, which is the site next to Rivian, going
Yeah.
east.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So there's two wall signs and a pylon sign with this. They're backlit. They're actually very similar to the ones that they have in the original BMW.
Lighting out and,
They are.
yeah.
They're what?
It is allowed. The backlit is
Put it all together.
I thought that was, kind of backlighting, it's not
backlit where it's opaque
the opaque, right,
and it's kind of like a shadow.
right,
look.
shadow.
Yeah.
So
So
that's what's proposed.
that is.
So
what's
what is
proposed.
this whole pole thing?
And then that's a pylon sign. That's the pylon
That's
sign
a side view.
of the pylon.
Are they
sign.
gonna have other signs on it?
No, just the BMW. That's the look of it. The ARB has approved it.
Just their logo is fine, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a rather chunky looking pylon. Any reason why?
So here, I'm sorry, I have a resolution.
It's a cellular tower.
Yeah, I
The
know.
cell tower.
Sorry, I do have a resolution. So it is, the ARB does,
What's the chunky pylon?
That's what I'm looking for.
yeah. So I described the 3 signs. There's 2 wall signs, and 3 standing signs showing the details by Blair Image. And the ARB indicated their approval on September 17th for the 3 signs and described it.
The 2 wall signs, just tell me where they are. In the front and
They're in the
then-
front.
and one on the side?
Yeah, one is the actual BMW of Southampton sign with the insignia, and the other one just simply says service on it, which maybe wouldn't have to be lit, but
It shouldn't have to be lit.
Yeah.
Let's make that recommendation.
And the other thing is there is a condition from the ARB in here that says the ground sign shall have no uplighting, and that's pretty standard. It's
Mhm.
actually prohibited by the code. So we'll have that as a condition.
So
too.
no backlighting on the ground, on the
Service
service,
and no uplighting
and no uplighting on the,
on the pylon sign, yeah. Yeah, but the other ones. Good. Anything else?
motion by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor. You done, Claire?
I have one, the next one I have is number, let me get my numbers right here, 14.
So we got 12. John
John
Galt,
Galt.
lot 2,
Oh,
Lover's
I'm
Path.
sorry, in your version is 12, I'm sorry. I had the right.
14, I have 14.
I have
John
14.
Galt?
Gold?
Yeah.
That's 14.
Could you pull
That's
up
the
Galt?
Watermill
I'm
Builders
sorry.
Supply.
478 Lover's Path.
Did you renumber these things?
I didn't, but I needed the latest and greatest version, and I guess
Okay, well, I have it as 12, John Galt. What are
Well,
we
I have
doing,
it at 12
14?
from the original,
Yeah,
original,
original.
because that's what I work with.
So which one are we doing?
Yeah.
Claire?
12. On
We're
yours
doing
is
12.
12, but it's 14 on everybody else.
We're doing gold.
12 is
John,
really
it's
14.
John,
Yeah.
Anne Rand's John Galt.
John Galt.
John Gold.
Okay.
Once it's printed.
So the history here, and he's done this a couple times, there's been some activity, I
Wow.
think there's an existing subdivision going on to the east of here. But, the original subdivision, which was called Charles Vanderveer, said everybody should come from the long, flagpoles to Daylily on the east side.
We
Oh,
just
that's
had
this one,
Charles
yeah.
Vanderleer.
Yeah, we just had
Yes,
it Vanderveer.
right, exactly. But then this was subdivided into the two-lot subdivision called
Right.
John Galt's, and then it continued to say this lot, which is highlighted, can access either Lopers to the west, which is now Town Road, but it still needed to improve the common driveway as a requirement.
Okay.
Because there isn't many parties to this, I think
Yes.
it needs a public hearing to modify that and notification to all those parties that this
Okay.
person will not be responsible anymore to that. So I have a resolution to that fact.
Good.
I'm suggesting November 14th as a date.
Okay.
So
Public
certified
hearing.
mailing, right?
In certified mailing, I say a direct mailing to the applicant, directs the applicant to mail notice of the hearing to the current property owners who are party to the above subdivision.
So it's not gonna be like the typical noticing requirement of the radius, it's just gonna be the party.
It's just gonna be the parties
They're
of
the ones
And
that
your
decide.
resolution.
If one person
and-
decides, is now released from that obligation.
Yeah,
Your resolution addresses that,
yes, I'm gonna say certified.
but there's not gonna be the normal radius, notification.
Mhm.
So how many people are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots?
7.
Yes, and then the one to the north
Yeah.
that was party of Galt was not a party to it anymore anyways. So it would be just this,
But don't you think
Three.
they should be notified? I would, it's an adjacent property owner. I would include them.
okay. So that would be 5, okay.
Okay, November 14th, public hearing.
Motion.
Motion by Kate,
Second.
second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
And then I have.
The Watermill Building Supply?
Yeah, so it has a site plan and a subdivision application. It is for a 2-lot subdivision of the existing site. And a pre-submission application for improvements to the property. This is the subdivision.
Is this where they're tearing down several of the buildings and, yeah,
Right, exactly. I think this is the best plan to show. Okay, this is the best plan to show it. This is the existing parcel and it's got some storage buildings to the east there, and they propose to divide this into about a 7,900 square foot parcel. And then, put an additional 15,000 square foot building there, and then reconstruct all that area and build a new building in the rear. So that
And
helps.
existing, this is the existing lumberyard.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
so that goes away.
They're taking that old,
So-
the relatively redone building down.
No, the one in the front?
Yeah.
No, no, no,
Okay,
that's
I'm
new,
gonna
yeah.
No.
And all of the trees and the
That's the
buffers
one
stay,
here,
right?
that's-
You're not changing that.
This would be the new building. It would probably match it in architecture, right? That's the new building in the back. and
Yes,
the
this is the,
bottom.
this is the building that will be.
So that's what they're-
Yes. And your name for the record, please? Robert Fischetti?
And Tommy Nippon, I'm one of the property owners.
Nippon.
Yep.
Thank you.
Wow. That's impressive.
We put a lot of work into the overall plan, into the design. We have the architects here. If you have any questions about the design.
Okay, so tell us where these buildings are going on this big plan.
Okay, so
This is the subdivision map. So this is part of one that shows all the buildings. Share them.
and I have that in small size.
If you could just hold one up, it'll be fine. Do you have them in small?
Yes. Yeah, I have all of them in smaller size.
Thank you.
Okay, so, top page, this is the existing
Existing.
one-story building.
Yep.
That comes out. Right? That's a
This
new building.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not
yeah.
new, but it's been renovated. They had
Yeah.
a facelift not that long ago.
In the
So
back?
then the back, this storage building and these storage sheds will be removed and replaced with one building.
And
that's
that
shown,
is?
if you flip to 2 pages down, to the 3rd page in,
Yeah.
you can see the overall site plan that
Yep.
has both lots with the proposed one building in the back, which really neatens things up from all those scattered buildings. It'll be a drive-through building so that, as a lot of our other lumber yards are, the customers can drive through to get the supplies that they purchase in the store. Then we
Great.
have the larger supplies.
And which one is that? Which building?
That's this building back
No,
here.
but I mean of these,
The top one.
Oh,
this
sorry.
one.
Then the new lot is a standalone lot. We have, of course, the continued parking through for a common parking access, but it's really designed to be a standalone lot as far as all of the entrance and turnaround for trucks and everything in the back.
Is
So
that
we've
a
got
new
two-
curb cut?
It's a
Yeah.
proposed new curb cut, yes. And we've done a lot of work with that. We've spoken to some a DOT consultant. We've lined it up with Rose Hill Road, which is right across the street, to give it, as much of an alignment with the current traffic as possible. And obviously, we'll have to proceed with that application.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of trucks coming out of that driveway now, as it is.
Yes.
Trying to make a left-hand turn.
And do we have pictures of this building?
Yes, it's this one. Isn't it this one?
Of which building? I'm
The
sorry.
front building.
The front,
The current building.
No,
no,
no.
the front building.
Oh,
the new building.
This new building on the
It's
new
the
lot.
bottom.
It's this one.
This bottom.
It's this one.
So this is in the, this is in
This is the rear
this is the
building, and
front
this is the
building.
new front building.
Okay,
So that would be what you'd see on the street.
because it says, it just
No,
says,
that's,
that-
that's, here, Brian. This exists, that's the newly renovated one.
Yeah.
This is this, and this is this. This is this new building.
So is
it
that
says, it says a
watermill-
metal storage building, which does not look like a metal
Well,
storage building
it's
to
a
me.
plumbing supply, right?
But
Is
the
that
new
what it says
building
on
on
there?
the new lot will be a plumbing supply.
So
Mhm.
that's where the
That's this-
classification
yeah,
of
that's
metal
this.
storage is coming from, because there's probably a lot of metal.
I'm not sure what you're referring
supplies?
to.
It says it on the site plan.
On the plan, it's called a metal storage building, and this does not look like a metal storage building to me.
Hardly.
And you support that?
Pardon?
It doesn't look like a metal
Yeah,
storage.
yeah, yeah.
I like the way
Nice.
this looks.
Good.
And
Okay.
and I'm
It should be relabeled.
I'm
It's just
questioning
referring to
the label.
structure is prefabricated. It's going to be, have this facade, but the internal, like the framework of it is prefabricated.
To clarify.
Like
the
a Morton
comment,
building.
It's a
It's not
pre-engineered.
storing metal.
It's a pre-engineered
Is what
building.
we're
Exactly.
thinking.
Made
Yes.
out of primarily
Pre-engineered, instead of pre-metal.
metal.
And
That's what it
so,
looks like. And the
It
architect
looks,
is.
it looks
here as
lovely. I was just questioning that you could have something this nice in a Morton building, which is what I was assuming it was.
Are those two companies separately held? Is that the reason for the subdivision of the?
Yeah, there's other
lots?
companies, and really the idea is that that's the intended use now, but this gives obviously flexibility for the future to consolidate or zone off.
So in the subdivision, how is this property being subdivided, Claire?
So the one part of it is, the
Down
total
Yeah.
is 5.9 acres, but 79,000 square feet is being subdivided off for the 15,000 square feet building is lot number 2.
So is it not code compliant?
The lot number 2 would be code compliant, just 15,000 is the limit. I would, as part of the subdivision and site plan issues, would say that the second lot, the lot number 1 with the reconfigured space, it would be non-conforming because you're making a property that was 5.9 acres and you're putting, that had, I'm just gonna make it up, 50,000 square feet of property up, buildings on it, and you're making that smaller. I would say that would probably need a variance. from
A
some board
variance,
appeals.
Yeah, so everything we have has a certificate of occupancy, but I understand that we'd be increasing the changing the ratio of space to non-conforming. So we understand that that's gonna be a part of this.
So you're,
And the, I was gonna say the second curb cut
That's an issue,
is an
yeah.
issue. 'Cause that's,
Right, can
that's
I
very busy.
pursue
You've got
that?
Scuttle Hole
Yeah.
coming out with all kinds of new building there,
Yep.
and the gas station.
You know, there's a pretty good distance, it's about 250 feet.
It's,
to,
when you're driving,
Scuttle
it's all
Right.
one big, looking for cars pulling in and out.
So can I, on parcel 2, the building, I assume it would be a retail type operation like you have in building 1 now, right? Which I do shop there, so I can appreciate your wanting to
Thank you.
open things up a little bit or whatever. Would it be the same types of things or construction related materials
plumbing
and
supply.
stuff? Plumbing supply,
So
okay.
there's some plumbing supply in the current building, so that would be shifted over and expanded.
To there, okay. And just, and I know the building in the back is identified as storage, so it's kind of replacing what's there, but, the 3 of them together are triple the size of, the square footage is triple the size of just having building 1. But I realize that's storage, so you're kind of doubling your retail space with building 1 and 2. And I was gonna ask about cross-access. I don't know if any opportunities exist there, but
The parking is connected.
Recording in progress.
between these two,
Between
but
these two, there's
over to Willow or over to, just pick up on Glorian's
There's
thought.
an old cross-access from one of the times we were here years ago.
Recording in progress.
The facade change, or we had another proposed plan years back. So there is a cross-access easement, I believe, for the property to the east.
Right, we had years ago planning, there was a concept plan at least for cross-access, behind and parallel to Montauk Highway. If there's an opportunity to pursue that, I think that, should be explored.
Given the nature of this use, to have, cars from other properties going through the back, obviously would cause, I think, more of a chaos than it would help to solve, just because we're already gonna have, trucks going back there for deliveries, and then also customers going back there after they've purchased their materials to go and pick things up.
And I can appreciate that. I know, with other properties like this, you contractor, you don't like having a lot of trucks driving in the back where you might have inventory. I can appreciate that. But, my concern, just picking up on Gloria's thought, did you ever think about one driveway in the middle of these 2 driveways? It is a very, congested area.
A shared driveway.
Sure,
Yeah,
right.
Interesting.
I mean, the only consideration I know the operation well is if the first existing driveway, if the large lumber trucks usually load in the rear, and some of these trucks are really large. They typically drive straight out of the existing
Right.
driveway. Now, if we, otherwise, Tom, they would have to make a sharp turn, interact with the customer parking that's taking place, people pulling in and out, to make it to this combined driveway. So 2 turns, a left and then a hard right, plus there's retail traffic And you know the site.
Yeah,
is
no,
busy.
and I can appreciate that, and I've, as I said,
It
I've been
almost
there many
segregates this-
times, and
Yeah, this one almost segregates. Now, you could have this exit only, that might be worth looking into the existing.
that's where
yeah.
I'm going, I can appreciate the circulation in the parking lot might be difficult, but,
Exit
a big
only.
part of my concern is when they exit or enter, from Montauk Highway, because again, I think we know the reality is they kind of nose out there and get out there, and
Yes.
which creates situations both eastbound and westbound. If that could be thought through a little bit, maybe an entrance and an exit, or or
Yeah, so
something
we
else
understand
like
there'll
that
be
that would.
A referral to the DOT for their thoughts as well. And I think if it's exit only there, it creates a little bit of a flow problem, because to have then to have the trucks that would normally be going in here, and then it's sort of a long path around.
Oh, you mean the delivery trucks? Yeah.
Right. Yes. So we did have a lot of different versions of this. We did speak to a DOT consultant to try to really anticipate everyone's expectations. Based on all of that, we thought lining up, having the separate entrance, but connecting the customer parking, and then lining up that new entrance with Rose Hill Road was the best, most ideal, best first approach. But we understand that
Well, at the very least, maybe some signage directing maybe truck entrance. So a delivery truck coming from out of state delivering
Yes.
lumber wouldn't use this entrance. They say, oh, this is the truck entrance.
Yes.
They'll leave them, something like that. I don't know.
But, you have a large parcel and you have virtually no interior circulation at all. And I think that we're missing an opportunity here.
Do you think this makes sense for a work session?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's problematic with
Yes.
subdividing out the lot where you don't know what's gonna happen in the future. We were just, prior to this, having a training and, really looking at the compounding issues on County Road 39, and, we're kind of setting things up for
Right. We wanted the lots to be able to work
trouble.
together, but at the same time, we did want parcel 2 to be able to act independently. So we went through a lot of variations of trucks going in and out, and finally we're able to sort of find something that works, where if this was ever in the future operated by a different company, there wouldn't be, particularly given all of the traffic and everything else that's involved in running parcel 1 independently, that there wouldn't be any interference.
Understand.
Yeah, and that makes sense as a
Right.
business use, and the planning considerations are competing
Yes.
with that
Yes.
significantly.
And all your inventory will be under this, in this building here, right? There's not going to have any outdoor storage. This is
For parcel 2 was not proposing any outdoor storage. No.
parcel 1.
Or parcel 1, yeah, no, it's all, everything that is being stored in those T-sheds and everything.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
Correct.
asking you if it's all going
Correct.
to be, great, thank you. And
I'm also not
this is
seeing a
not
lot-
15,000 square feet. This is highway business?
The existing is way over.
Way over.
Yeah.
And combined, what is it? You've got
Did some
18,450 and 12,200. So that's well over 30,000 square feet.
Yes, the back building is not for anyone to shop in or anything like that.
No, I know, I'm talking code.
Understood.
Right, so at the end of the day, lot 1 would have a 24,975 square foot building in the rear, and their existing front building is 17,386.
17, because they have 12,000.
That's the roofed area.
That's
roofed area.
That's
Total.
the-
That's what a building is.
And I'm
Yeah.
seeing all the parking
So they-
in the front and nothing in the back.
So can I just finish with the size, Gloria? Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So they're going to need a variance
Yep.
for these buildings.
Right.
The
Well,
limit
this-
is 15,000 square feet.
This building has a certificate of occupancy. The current building that's there is pre-existing the 15,000 square foot rule. So we're not changing this at all. So,
But you're adding to that parcel
well, no, we're not adding any square footage to that
another
parcel, but
15,000. This is all in one parcel.
this is all replacing a building that's already there. This is replacing the 3 buildings that are, the 4 buildings that are already there.
It sounds like a shell game.
Right, it's a new action, I mean, you were granted, those are pre-existing, they're not gonna be existing anymore, so it's a
Right, I
new
mean,
consideration underneath the existing
We
code.
gained approval from this board years ago on a project that we did not go forward with to replace the outdoor showroom on the west side of the main building and build a whole new building. And that was approved as moving pre-existing non-conforming space to another location on the lot for use both as retail space. And this is really along the same line as that, and just replacing square footage for square footage.
I don't think so. But
You
we'll
can
look
confirm,
into
but as the person who works for the zoning board of appeals, I think the issue, Rob, is if you were looking at this property as a whole, and looking at a pre-existing condition, I believe you're right. I think that the rub here, is the fact that you're creating a new lot, for which this pre-existing condition does not exist. I think that does require going to the ZBA, but we will confirm that, obviously.
Yeah.
We're not
So
gonna send
we'll-
somebody somewhere if they don't have to, but I think that's where the issue is.
I wasn't arguing, I understood we'd end up in the zoning board, maybe I was misunderstanding what as far as total lot coverage, yes, but the 15,000 square foot building.
That's the maximum. If you're creating a lot in a highway business, 15,000 square feet is the maximum square footage you can have. So this one seems okay. I mean, I think a work session would be very valuable because we have a lot of things on the agenda today. And maybe you can bring the alternative plans that you have, that you worked on, so that we can see them.
Do you want to, you're available the 10th of October? For work session? And then we'll just table this
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the work session, and if everything,
But at
we
least
just
you
get
have
an
some sense
explanation, then
of
we
what-
can schedule the public hearing. Does that make sense?
The buildings are lovely, but
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, we'll take these.
okay.
You said November 10th?
I'm sorry, October 10th.
October 10th.
October
Okay.
10th?
So next meeting.
It looks nice.
Yeah.
West Palm Beach.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
You can achieve a lot if you
Yeah,
put your mind to it.
great, thank you. And
Yeah.
bring all your sketch plans, what you were working on and revised, because maybe we can noodle something out from that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll get more information about what you need with the ZBA a little bit, just so you have got a handle on it.
Right.
Talk about square footages.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you very
thanks,
much.
thank
Thank you
you.
for your time.
Claire, number NRP Holdings subdivision?
My subdivision site plan, everything's a subdivision and a site plan.
Oh, so did you have number 20 that
That's
we were gonna
17.
set
17 or
a
15?
pre-submission?
17.
Come on, 15.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm gonna hold off on that.
And
We're doing RP.
No action on this, we
NRP
just
is
scheduled a,
John?
who's here? John, are
John.
you here?
Yeah.
Let me get the crew. I'm right there.
Crew. It sounds ominous.
Yes, here we go.
So we're doing two things. There's a subdivision of the entire site into 3
And
lots.
he's bringing a very large box.
Yes.
And then the site.
The last time John Bennett had a box
John.
like that, there was a human
There
head
are puppies.
inside. So, oh boy.
Are you going into court?
You know what happens?
Yeah,
Every
I
time
know.
somebody says to me, just bring these things,
That's
Yeah.
good.
I don't have the thing.
Good. This is a
Bring
good,
the whole
this is a
file.
good
This is only
plan.
one,
Bring the
this is
file.
like 1 of 5 boxes.
That's right.
1 of 5.
So I have a couple copies of this, just so you have it.
Okay, so give us a little overview.
Yeah, so, this was considered at the June 27th meeting on the planning board. It was deemed incomplete. We needed some type information both at the pre-app level and the site plan level to proceed with the application. They had provided us some additional information in August and in September. And I do find that the three applications are complete now. A little back and forth. But the plan is for a 3-lot subdivision. Treble
Yep.
being
Oh, it's the Strebel.
Right, the Strebel, on Montauk Highway is one lot. The second lot is the 79, affordable units. And then the third lot is, a parcel that's proposed to be purchased for CPF, with CPF. And then there's 2 open space parcels that are being shown on the plan. So we call it a 3-lot PRD, and the open space is 25%, which will be given to the town. They're proposing to deed it to the town in this case. So they have
There's no with rental units, so there's no homeowners association, so we just give it to the town. I think it makes sense. That probably makes everybody happy.
You're gonna sell that CPF.
Sell. There's a parcel
I've
that
been
we're
talking
doing
about that
CPF,
every
but
time.
as Claire pointed out,
Yeah.
it's a PRD, so we have to have a 25% open space. So you've got 2 open space parcels, which are great because they create buffers.
Oh,
Space
Side,
here.
And then there's a parcel that we're selling.
Here,
And
okay,
the
and
buffers
here.
are on the property with the affordable housing.
Yeah, okay.
So actually it works out pretty well.
Yeah, so we have all the ingredients and all the pieces. So this is proposed lot 1, 2, 3,
This is CPF purchase.
right?
Yep, that's 3.
And then what's happening, is this the
These are our
station?
parcels.
Those are
These
our
are
parcels.
parcels.
Yeah, I looked when I
Oh, here's,
I think the water, where's the water tower there? Is that right?
No, it's
It's
down,
Down the road.
further
Oh.
east of this.
It's down Old Meeting House.
You can see the water tower
Yeah.
actually to the east. It's on the other side of the
East Meeting
subdivision.
House. It's almost exactly half a mile from there.
Is it?
I knew that because I walk it.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So the proposed proposal in front of you is to deem the 2 site plans complete and to deem the pre-application for the subdivision complete, which would be the first action, right? Is subdivisions, right?
So they're gonna be
First one is
reviewed
completeness.
concurrently, Claire?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a pre-application and pre-submission conference?
No, not the submission. It would be the hearing for the site plans.
Site plan hearing.
for the site
So we have
plan.
to do pre-app
Pre-app.
first,
Mhm.
and then site plan hearing at
Yeah.
a second hearing.
You can do the site plan, you can do them together,
We can do them
but
together.
you could not sign the site plan until the actual final subdivision is completed. So we're gonna be holding the site plan, let's just say it's approved, right? The site plan's approved. It's gonna be,
Subject to.
it's going to be held in abeyance and extended
okay.
until the subdivision is completed.
So we're gonna schedule a,
Pre-application.
Pre-app.
I'm gonna do it like in order. I have the resolutions
you
here.
do,
Yeah.
okay, good.
And the only thing that I have to say, because whenever I see at this stage, the application is deemed complete, I make sure that I don't steal, what's the expression, I don't wanna steal,
Thunder?
no, I don't wanna grab, defeat from the jaws of victory. So
Yeah.
usually when I see applications complete, that's wonderful, that's fine, I
That's
have no
happy.
comments, thank you very much for working on it. The only question that I do have.
We don't have it in front of us.
Okay, it has a December 12th, and they all should be heard together. They have a December 12th hearing date. I'm really hoping we can do a little bit better than that because,
Earlier?
yeah, because, I mean, we're just out of summer and December 12th will be just almost winter.
Yeah,
So that's like essentially
I know we lose a
dead
date.
in water for.
And that's
We
our
also lose
last
a date in November because of Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, no,
Okay.
no, I think
No,
we have
the
2 in
21st.
November.
There has been, after the original hearings,
There were
very
very
little
slight.
public, very little public comment on these.
There, Kristen, there are 2 in November, but only 1 with an evening?
Yeah, the first one.
And how many are on that? Well, I think we have to, you know, put this on. Because we have only
Yeah.
1 in December, and then we're
Yeah,
already
we
in
can.
2025.
You can do November
In the
14th.
past,
Okay.
haven't we set evening hearings on that second November date in the
21st?
past?
No.
We haven't,
so.
no.
Not passed, but I
Okay.
mean, you could, you try to do 4, but obviously you can break
Yeah.
that thing and do 6. And
So this would be on the 14th.
14th of November.
November
Okay, so
14th.
we deem it complete and schedule a public hearing for November 14th.
Right,
It was
So motion?
It was actually listed that way in the packet,
Yeah.
November 14th.
Yeah, you have December 12th.
It was?
Yep. I have
I
a
don't
note.
think I even wrote anything.
I would not have wread it if I didn't read it.
Okay.
Right,
Great.
didn't make it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And this will go
so,
through the normal notification process, noticing everything is.
Well, the pre-submit, sorry, no, the pre-application, yes, everything's gonna be noticed, all the neighbors will be noticed in both cases. I think it's probably send out the same, the 3 notices, to everybody. Yeah, right, exactly. So they'll all need the noticing, both the mailings and the posting.
okay, so our action now is to deem the subdivision complete and schedule a public hearing for November 14th.
The pre-app, yep.
Motion?
Motion.
By Dennis, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. Next.
And do you want me to pass them out or just read them? It's just that, so the first one would be the 79 units for the
Proposed lot 1.
Proposed lot 1, and that would be also November 14th.
So it's complete and deemed it complete. Motion by Kate, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have it
If you
two.
don't mind. So this has been through a rezoning application,
Correct.
and there's a full seeker and EIS done.
Full
on
secret,
this.
EIS,
So,
there was an EIS done, or
Right.
DEIS, FEIS findings.
so for the terms of the subdivision and site plan applications, they won't have to, they won't. We still use the information that was done through rezoning, or do we go through the same process again?
Secret's closed,
I don't know.
Secret's closed.
Secret's closed.
The
What?
town board did that?
Town boards did secret, they coordinated review.
Yeah. Secret's closed.
Secret's closed.
Is this all affordable, John?
Yes, full 100%.
I'm just asking because I kind of suspect that, but I just want to know what the process is.
This is the same. So are we,
You can make findings.
what's our relationship?
You can make your own
Nothing is-
findings
Yeah.
if you want to.
Okay.
Right, but you only have to do that before the decision, the actual decision.
Okay,
So
right.
when the site plans come before you and if you wanna look at all the information presented
Is it
and
up?
make something different from the
From the town board?
but it was a very thorough finding statement.
I'm gonna have to stop you right here.
Is it
said you
on?
were finding.
Is it
Well, no,
online?
I just said it.
No, the findings would be subject to your plenary approval powers having nothing to do with secret. Secret's done, we're done. It's the Gordon versus Rush case. I don't care that was a negative deck or anything, and this was a full secret. The town board coordinated.
I thought you were gonna stop at completeness.
You're grasping the things from the feed.
No, I'm
From
not.
feed.
No, I'm absolutely not.
Yeah,
Because
no,
you
no,
just
now,
asked me-
John,
He asked the question.
John, I went through the Rush case.
Yeah.
It's like apples and oranges.
No, it is not.
It is.
100% on.
It is. That was an interested,
Okay.
they were an interested agency or an involved agency that weighed in on something, and no matter what that case aside, they can always render their own findings.
Hopefully, we won't have to have this argument. So let's just.
We're saying the
I
same
was
thing.
going to say, before you cut me off,
Yeah.
that I thought the town board did a really good job on their finding statements.
That's different than what Dennis properly said, which is secret is done.
Right, and that's why you have 6 board members and a town attorney
Mhm.
and some advisors. So I'm gonna send it to you today, the link. to
When was
everything,
the secret
so you can-
completed?
So we have it.
When was the secret
November 28th, 2023.
We're gonna have some comments related to the site plan, we're gonna
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
of course,
parking and lighting,
course.
that kind of builds on it, we're not going back to the
Powers
secret.
under,
Yeah,
that's-
absolutely. I think we're saying the same thing, John, so
we're not, I'm agreeing with you.
let's assume we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the anxiety is that we would do an amended secret, that's what I think you're nervous about, right?
Jackie, let me say something. If there's never any amendments going on in secret or anything like that, I don't really care. Then it does become a non-issue. It's just important for me to state my position that I'm quite confident that the town board, having determined itself to be lead agency, having coordinated review, having come to you as part of the secret process, having had scoping sessions, DEIS, FEIS, and findings, that's done. The Gordon versus Rush case, that's what it says. I don't care if it was merely a negative debt case. But what I am agreeing with you is unless somebody's gonna try to open up secret, I don't really care. But I have to take my position that which is secret's done.
Right. You're on the record.
Yeah.
You're on the record. Claire, do you have can you also email us our referral?
Yes.
Okay, because it's been some time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So send us our referral, our comments. Good question, George. And then a link to the documents.
All the secret documents. They're online for anybody to see, but I'll give you the
Okay.
So
And do you have the second document?
I do. I just wanted to make sure we voted on the first one.
We did.
We did.
But I was in the middle of taking a vote on the second one.
I might only have 4 of those, so
That's
you
okay.
guys wanna share.
That's simple enough.
I was trying to save paper.
Kate, did you want to say
Oh,
something?
1 sheet of paper.
Given the discussion and some other things that we have gone over, I feel a little uncomfortable and I'd just like to rescind my motion, but the board can pursue.
A motion to set the hearing.
All
Right.
that discussion can happen after the hearing. You're not exceeding anything by establishing the hearing date.
No, that was completeness.
Right?
On the first,
On the first one.
Which is the hearing, right?
The hearing
for the
site plan.
subdivision.
The site plans, subdivision was already completed.
I did not take a vote on the site plan. I was in the middle of the vote on the
Okay,
site
yes,
plan.
there we go.
Okay?
Okay.
So this is for completeness and to schedule a public hearing
On the
On the
site.
site plan.
on the site
for
plan
lot number 1.
for lot number 1.
Oh, I think she feels that we voted on lot number 1.
Actually, yes.
We voted on the subdivision. I did not take a full vote
You have
on
number
the
2
site
listed
plan.
on the so.
And this is the November 14th as well. Okay, so. Is there a
Motion.
motion by Dennis? Second? Have a second?
I'll second.
George?
Second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 6 in favor. You will send us a link of our referral, because it's big. I'm sure everybody
Been a
else
while.
has too. It's been a while.
And then you're gonna vote on the lot 2?
That's Stratham.
Right.
It's the site plan for Stratham.
So that's yet a third?
It's a third.
Lot 2 is existing, it's gonna have the existing, we still have.
I'm sorry, it's no longer lot number 2, is it? For which one is it?
That's right, it's lot 2, it's the existing structure.
Okay, glad you kept
Yeah.
the link.
We have to do site, we have to do site plan for that,
Yeah, we have to do a site plan. I think it was part of the direction of the town.
for the
boards.
existing, for all the
Oh,
existing
that's
structures.
good of you too.
Your third resolution is for lot 2.
And that's gonna be hearings, separate hearings, same night?
Same night.
Same night,
Separate hearings, same nights, we've
Okay,
started
because
to talk about the issues that would
It's just-
be, more be like cleanup, on a site plan.
Yeah.
So this is just misleading the agenda, not to be concerned, it just says subdivision. So we're really 3 actions here.
No, we're
All 3
up
are
to,
17, 21, and 22.
you're looking at, the numbering is gonna be like 23 and 24 maybe,
Okay,
Oh, separate, okay.
under site plan?
okay, so I have
Jump
subdivision,
on the
then, okay, you're
Just
jumping,
this
okay.
No, 21 and.
We're on
and-
Twitter.
You have different numbers,
Yeah,
so,
nineteen-
and
nineteen
that's
and-
it.
Sorry.
19 and 20.
It is
21,
like
22.
On the old.
Right.
So we've,
So we did-
we've taken, lot number 1 site plan, we've done that.
Mhm.
And now
We
lot
did-
number 2, we have to do site plan.
Mhm.
So that's complete, and we're scheduling a public hearing for November 14th on that,
Mhm.
all
Motion.
pre-app, right? Motion by Dennis?
No, this
No.
would be completeness of the site plans.
Just complete.
Not setting a hearing,
Yes,
Yes.
November 14th. 3 of them.
completeness and setting a hearing.
For the Stratham.
Motion.
November 14th by Dennis by motion, second by Gloria,
Yeah.
all in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. Okay, I see they were all separate on
Yeah.
and under different categories.
That's how they
Oh.
It is
submitted it.
confusing.
Got through that one.
Okay, and we have time
Next
to
thing's
read.
hearing.
What's 62 days after November 14th, that's what I wanna know.
Doesn't leave me a lot of time.
I was gonna say.
It doesn't.
You might be coming back for.
It'll be the first meeting in
Just-
January.
Just as a reminder,
As he throws up his
No,
hands.
is it?
No.
Is the deadline.
Yeah, Jackie, just a reminder, I won't be here November 14th, so if you need a quorum, I've already
Yeah,
expressed
everybody will
that.
be here?
Yeah,
November
I'll be here.
14th?
Yeah.
I will be absent.
Kate, will
Yeah.
be here?
You're traveling, you
Yeah.
have the absences.
Okay. Thank you.
All
I'll
right.
designate my vote to Dennis.
Thank you.
I'll be out crawling here, I don't care.
Next time I'll bring it.
Don't, John.
Don't, for Halloween, you mean?
I think you should bring pizza on November 14th.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a better
Well,
than
they've
one.
had lots of public hearings, have they not, at the town board level?
Got a scoping session.
Yeah, we
had
had-
a public hearing.
Yeah.
A continued public hearing. Doing a lot of
Work on that.
So I appreciate you getting us into November.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Thanks a million.
Okay, thank
You know
you.
me, when it comes to legal procedural argument, I just.
I don't know, John, some of your case law references are not right.
He hasn't lost his edge.
John, I think you were just disappointed.
To be
that things
continued.
are- Things seem to be going
continued.
forward without an argument.
When
Oh,
he
I
doesn't
know.
argue,
So
that's
you
when
decided
we're
to
worried,
make one.
John. That's when we're worried. Keep it up.
Thanks for everybody.
Stay well.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
So Claire, you're done? No. Watermill Buildings is probably done.
That's done.
The one after the NRP.
Milk
lot
pail?
number 2.
The site, oh, so that's
Milk,
signed
milk,
plan.
milk,
Oh,
milk
milk pail.
pail.
Val?
Milk pail.
Number
So
20.
this was a site plan that we received a couple months ago. This is to increase, in an existing building, to increase labor housing, in the building to the remainder of the building. They received variances for setbacks from the CDA, but, that was successful. There was no public interest in it, but we have to have a public hearing because it's a special exception. So
Oh,
I'm
this is the
suggesting.
walk-on.
Yeah, it was walk on.
It was, it's
after.
on my agenda.
It's on your
It's
agenda.
on the agenda.
So my item 23, but I don't know if yours. It comes right after the
21?
NRP
It's,
number 2.
it's 21 on the original.
Yes. I hate that when they're at the bottom like that and you just have the title and then it continues here, you
Yes,
completely
no,
miss it. So we're scheduling a public hearing for
Yes.
this?
With 1024.
For the 14th?
October.
November 14th?
Oh, October.
There's no public interest in this one.
October 24th?
Yeah. This would be the 5th or 6th one on the
Yeah.
agenda, but I didn't, it wasn't the same scope as an RP, so
Right.
this is a lot easier.
But-
So motion to set,
Motion.
motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
And my last one is off the agenda for signature. East Quad.
It's off, okay,
He's
number
quiet,
20,
so.
number 20, old 26, whatever it is.
26.
Okay. Thank you, Claire. Okay, let's go back to the beginning and go in order.
Carl's got it.
Oh, Carl has an appointment.
I think we should just sit here and wait.
So which one are
Which number
you?
are
I
you?
tried to tell him.
What's your application?
14 North Review.
314.
Oh, item 12 on my agenda.
It's not on mine.
Together.
10.
Item 12 on
So
mine.
let's pass it all the way down and I'll collate.
Is everyone have different agendas? Is that?
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
we printed out an early
It
one.
happens.
This is
It
all.
rarely
Now,
happens.
now I
We
understand.
are efficient.
Take,
I'm
pass
just
this down.
collating.
She's collating.
So the
Take,
board
no,
knows,
take, no.
what I passed down
Pass
was the
the
draft
package
pre-app
down.
report that I had emailed, and the comments that I received today from the conservation.
Okay.
I know the patients.
Kate's collating.
Thank you, thank you. Okay.
And what, where are we?
I think we showed you on the other.
314 North McGee. It's number 12 on some agendas.
Do you have another one?
That's John
There's
Wall.
It's coming.
It's coming, it's coming. On its way.
So this is, property.
It's number 10 on the old schedule.
Gotcha. This is an application, for a 4-lot subdivision, for which we had a hearing. The property is in the R40 zoning district, and the New York State R2 sensitive area, and no other overlay districts. You can see that there's, a bunch of town-owned open space, to the east of this property, not an aquifer or anything like that. The applicant has proposed, I'll just show them real quick. They have a yield map. They do show a park area on that. We had to get it revised. That's just for the purposes of yield, Jackie.
Yeah.
So, okay. And if you might recall, this is they show 4 lots here. The issues that in the front lot, given the lot, you know, the configuration, the lot width of this lot is short by 3.6 feet or something like that. It's pretty small. So, you know, just we are aware of that. Although this plan shows like a cul-de-sac, that wouldn't be the plan. They're showing then the 4 lots with a common driveway, flag lots to access the 4 lots with the bulk of the open space in the back, and they're showing a small portion in the front. I would submit to this board that I would, the open space, even the recommendation of the conservation board, should go all in the back, and we could certainly provide buffers if we wanted to, or, for screening from neighbors and for trail. If that's the direction the board wants to go. I should point out, this isn't the applicant, so I'm very cautious. Aries Design was retained, I think, by adjacent property owners, and they came up with a different subdivision design.
That's 3 lots instead of 4.
It's 3 lots instead of 4, and you can see sort of perimeter open space and creating a large buffer to the property to the south.
So they had their own subdivision?
They presented as part of the public comments. That's the extent.
This was never, that wasn't ready at the, they must have submitted it.
It was part of the 30-day review period.
Okay.
So does this parcel yield 4 lots?
The 1 lot in the front is deficient on lot width by 3.5.
So the lot area yields that.
It yields. The lot area
width
does.
problem, and we would need a variance for that.
So if you look at the report, which I given to the board, so I showed you they prepared a yield map and the question about that front lot. They also
Is that the standard?
that's a standard yield plan. And then on the second page there, they also submitted that cluster plan, which provides a minimum of 25% open space. And it's good actually, because we do have the open space
In the
connected
rear?
in the back. It's not an aquifer, so there's no clearing restrictions, but
Which
at least they
I
came
still
with the
don't
plan.
understand that, because the town has preserved so much land there. And it is all wooded, why it's not, I just have to continually say.
Understood.
Well, they are putting the open space adjoining the town.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah,
Why it's
I-
not in the
You should say why it's not a lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
that's my only,
I don't think the town property is either, right? No, nothing. That whole area is out of the APOD.
I know.
But it's archaeological.
It is archaeologically sensitive.
Yeah, they have to do it.
This will be a minor review, provided that no road is proposed, and I wouldn't put a full-blown road for a 4-lot subdivision if we could accomplish it with
Common
flat strips. This would be a type 2 action under SECRA, so no further environmental review, but it is an archaeological sensitive, so they do have to do the archaeological on this one. Conformance with the comprehensive plan, nothing specific in the comprehensive plan about this property, but to the extent that even outside of the APOD, we could get a cluster plan to preserve some land adjacent to existing open space. I think that would be, consistent with the comprehensive plan. Conformance with zoning, as already said, the 1 lot is showing 116.36 feet where 120 is the minimum required. So you're looking at a pretty small deficiency there. The park requirement, I should note that if the board went with a trail recommendation, then they could satisfy the park requirement. If not,
Are there any trail
it's just
configuration
like,
here?
well, just like, and we'll get to it in the report, but we did the subdivision to the north, somewhere up here, where the Trails Advisory was trying to get a connection onto North McGee Street here. It was Wayne Bruin's application, you might recall. We didn't actually do the trail connection there, because looking at the larger trail network here, it's pretty intact. I think what they were trying to accomplish is, perhaps getting out to here, to the road here, and maybe trying to get, up here into this connection. But you can have that discussion when we get to the recommendation, but they're recommending, the open space in the rear and then a strip of land on the south side here. I should point out that the preference for the adjacent property owners would be a vegetated buffer and just a vegetated buffer, is my guess. So there were some concerns from
But
neighbors down there. I know one sitting here.
If there was a trail, if there was a trail along that border, that would reduce the road width even more. So
Plus we lose the park fee. I'd rather get the park fee.
No, but
Yeah, so and like I said, this is very similar. and we'll get to it when we
Yeah.
get there, but you're right, Dennis. So conformance with the zoning, the park requirements, so what I will fix in here then, board members, is let me put in the per lot price in case we don't do a trail, so I should put that in there. We had a public hearing in July, it was closed with a 10-day. We had concerns about additional density and traffic in the neighborhood, about the loss of privacy, a request to preserve open space and or buffers from adjoining property owners, concerns about impacts to groundwater and loss of wildlife habitat, argument that the property technically only yields 3 lots. That came out of the public hearing as well. And I do note that Aries Design submitted an alternative plan for the board's consideration.
So can I just ask you then, this 3-lot subdivision, what is that based on?
I'm guessing that they took the position that the 4th lot doesn't meet zoning and therefore is not.
That's just their concept.
That's their
Listen,
concept.
we note that in here.
I would note,
we'll
they
get to
live
it,
in these lots here.
Yeah.
So, and they pushed all the lots against.
You know, so let me point this out to the board now, this is as good a time as any other. There's that provision in the code that says the zoning board may create undersized lots, provided that they indicate or demonstrate that they tried to bring the development right. And then it goes on to exempt certain subdivisions, ones for which minor area or dimensional relief would not be subject to that, you know. And here we're talking about 3.5 feet, so I want to be clear with the board.
But it would be an affordable lot, is what you're saying.
No, it wouldn't have, they got zoning relief, we'll get to that, but I do point that there is an option for the applicant if they did not get relief or attempt to get relief, so. And so that alternative plan, and even the one from the Trails Advisory provides a, trail link or buffer along the southern property. We could provide a buffer on the southern property from the adjacent property owners, I don't think that's unreasonable. Town engineer came in with the comments, which we've incorporated, include the speedies and 3-inch rainfall, and obviously they gotta come in with a common driveway plan. Conservation board, that's grayed out, but I just gave you the memo. Not much here. They do note that it's well drained. There is a seasonally wet depression, but it's not a wetland, not regulated. They do note there's litter, tire, stone, metal, glass on the southern portion of the track. So when we get to that, we'll put in the condition that any debris get removed from the site prior to any maps being signed. And then importantly, the conservation board on point number 4 talks about their plan with the fragmented open space. They're recommending that all of it go to the back of the property, and that's typically where you would put your open spaces adjacent to existing open space. Particularly if it's going to be dedicated to the town's not going to be interested in taking a piece of 6,000 square feet. It's got to be one piece. Office of Fire Prevention, they're recommending, public water and a hydrant. Let's see what comes back, because they got to go to the health department. The public water is over 500 feet away from this property, so I don't know what the requirements are of the health department to bring it in. So they may have to bring it in.
We're anticipating that they would.
So they're anticipating.
That they
So my guess is we'll see that at the final. And then the typical requirements. But they do recommend bringing in water mains and fire hydrants. So in terms of recommendations, it says here, the planning board does not support zoning relief to increase the yield from 3 to 4 lots. And it says instead if the applicant wants to seek a 4 lot, the planning board has the ability to do it automatically for affordable housing. I think Carl, my language was a little harsh in the.
It's clear.
It's clear, yeah. But he, I'll let Carl make his.
Not harsh. I didn't want the planning board, unless you really feel this way, to take a definite position on our variance. I think that's more for the zoning board to weigh on whether we're entitled to that.
But this is just an alternative, which he's flagging for
Well,
us.
what I could say, Jackie,
He says the planning board does not support the zoning relief.
Yes. So Jackie,
I'd
here,
rather you didn't take a position on this.
let me give a suggestion. I could simply say that the town code allows the planning board to vary the lot for affordable housing if the applicant would like to choose that, and then leave it at that. So that way, that option's in there. Again, I'm going to be honest. It's going to be treated, if they do go to the zoning board, as a minor variance.
Yeah.
And as a result, I mean, the public doesn't get to speak on minor variances. So they treat it very differently. Actually, staff can comment on minor variances as well comments, so.
The thing is, again, going back to the training session that we were in today, so it's top of mind, there's a significant burden on, traffic, environment, all of the, people that need to come east and produce all these pieces of development. And so, it's unfortunate at this juncture, right, with a minor variance that, this is coming to mind, but all of these subdivisions with one additional lot, do produce a cumulative impact on all of those factors that we're discussing. And so, I think it's worthwhile considering that in some way in the report so that there is a moment to comment on it with this and other applications,
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I think that's, yeah.
Anthony, you'll change that language.
Yeah, I'll put that in the planning board
Well
notes.
said. We're looking at a community with overstressed.
I honestly, I was going to thank you for putting that in the report, actually, so I wouldn't recommend taking it out. That's a matter for the board's consideration.
It's just the language.
But it's more related to the
increase in density all over.
Right.
We're looking.
And request applicant consider the cumulative impacts of increased density, something like that.
So I think the board got concerned about cumulative impacts of additional density beyond what a build map would establish.
So if you want to just say that you request the applicant consider the cumulative impacts of increased density. Something like that? Is that what we're?
Well, he's just stating, you don't even have to request.
It's a comment.
The applicant has the option of making the lot affordable and allowing us to do that. So in other words, the statement is just the creation of the fourth lot requires zoning board of relief. And the second sentence,
right. So
you
there's
have the
two
option
separate,
of making affordable lot. That's
two separate thoughts.
Two separate thoughts, right?
Okay.
Yes.
So
An additional lot would add the benefit of affordable housing. An additional lot also sets or continues the precedent of weighing the value of affordable housing over a significantly stressed infrastructure.
Cumulative density.
And cumulative density.
Yeah. So break it into two, Anthony.
I can do that.
And I mean, you probably could add something about the overall town's focus on trying to provide affordable housing, some sort of a sentence in there as well, because that is a major focus.
Right. So, to my mind, again, it's a group decision. I would support this statement. The planning board does not support zoning relief to increase yield of any lots because we have a significantly stressed infrastructure and that cumulative density issue. And the other reasons that are escaping me.
Yeah, I mean,
except that,
and that the town is addressing affordable housing in other ways, not just piecemeal through adding tacked on lots to subdivision.
Except that legally an applicant has a right to go for zoning relief.
Yes.
So
I don't
Sure,
think
but we don't
take a
have to
position on
support that.
the variance.
We don't have to say we don't
just
support
stating
it,
they
but we
need a
can
variance.
give alternatives
Well, that's
to
exactly
how to get the fourth lot.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
But are we?
You're taking that language out.
So you're not taking a position on the variance, you're just presenting options.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's fine.
Well, we're stating you do need relief.
Yeah.
The fourth lot needs relief.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a standard statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll get in there, Kate, what you said.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I'm in
not-
the minority in that. I think we should, but that's why we have a good, diverse group, and I respect it.
I say the planning board's preferred map is the PRD plan with the open space located in the eastern portion of the property. If the planning board's not inclined to do a trail easement along the southern property boundary here, I would recommend then a 25-foot buffer, vegetated buffer from the adjacent residential properties. That came out of the public hearing. Here's what I would say to that point, and I should note it in here, because they're showing side yard setbacks on those lots. one at 20 feet, one at 25 feet, I would keep the side yard setback on the southerly property lines at the 25 feet.
And put a
Just to
buffer in
maximize
there.
the setbacks from these adjacent residential properties.
Absolutely.
On which, on the southern?
On the southern portion there.
So where we show the accessory and principal get reduced to 25?
Well, we
Or increased to 25?
You just show, you show side yard setbacks of 20
Yeah.
and 25 feet. I would just use the larger of the setbacks.
Oh, I'm looking at which map are you looking at?
Okay, let's make this easier. Can we just call it a 25-foot buffer along the southern property line and then let the applicant figure out how to do their building envelope?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Doesn't
That's what
impact
we're
the
gonna do,
setbacks.
Carl.
Your setbacks are your setbacks.
That's what I'm saying. I thought he was saying amending the setbacks, but.
I'm not amending, I was switching, but it's not relevant.
Okay.
We're giving what, R40 setbacks, and this is a cluster, right?
Yeah, R40.
R40 setbacks.
I do note here, it says provide a 20-foot wide non-disturbance buffer along the northerly property boundary here, from these property owners.
Why, Anthony, why 25 on the south side and 20 on the north side? Any,
No particular reason. I didn't have anybody come up here and let it come out.
All right, so let's
I
do
think
20
the
on
house-
both.
You want to do 20 on both? It's up to this board here.
Yeah, I think 20
I think
good on
20
both.
on both.
It's consistency.
Yeah. I mean, they already have some buffer, and those that don't just push the house all the way back along that property line anyway. I think 20 foot on both of them seems sufficient.
A phase 1A, 1B archaeological survey will be required on this. Make revisions to the plan and submission of a common driveway and utility easement. Show a fire hydrant within the vicinity of the subdivision for the Office of Fire Prevention. This is also under the presumption that the water authority is going to require that they manage water. But even if they don't, my guess is a cistern or something will be required.
What about the health department, the IA systems? Are we gonna say anything
Well,
here?
that's standard.
It's standard now, it's a requirement.
Okay, so we don't have to say anything.
Not anymore.
Every new property.
Yep, number 7 just talks about the water main, so we know that they may have to extend it. They should indicate that the open space will be dedicated to the town of Southampton. There's some lawn encroachments going on, Carl, that we're gonna have to address before maps get signed. And also, I wanna put in there about the debris that the conservation board mentioned, that's gotta be removed from the site. You sure? Because, you know.
Well, is this a fully treed site? It looks pretty
Yeah, fully wooded.
Yeah,
fully wooded.
Yeah.
You know, what's happening on some of these subdivision, 3-lot, 4-lot subdivisions is that they're totally overcleared because the builders come in and say they couldn't maneuver, so they had to take trees out. So I'd like for us to be able to say something about overclearing
But
ahead
it's,
of time.
but it's not in the APOD. It's not aquifer. So
There are
unless
no-
this board imposes clear restrictions, there are no clear restrictions.
Some language, I thought we talked about having some language about,
We put project limiting fences for the dedicated areas.
Or state.
Well, we do, and we should put that,
speedy.
Usually it's split rail, right?
split rail, yeah.
Right.
But
Then they
that's
have
the-
no
that's the
excuse.
designated
to-
That's into the town's open space. I think
Right.
Jackie's speaking more about the,
I'm
within the
thinking
lots
more
themselves.
about the tree, but there's no, that piece of code hasn't been written yet. about overclear.
We don't have
We don't have
any
a
code that
reference.
speaks to clearing on non-APOD.
Yeah,
So let me add the split rail fence though, because we do delineate
Yes.
open space.
That's for the town
No problem.
open space.
So
So-
that's against the property line to the town open space, and then could they do a temporary, like the orange fencing
buffer.
for the area that's against the buffer? That's what I'm talking about, a visual cue to the builders, so that they don't say, whoops,
Don't wipe
we
out the buffer.
overcleared,"
Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
and then
That's-
put
Yeah.
back
So I'll
less
put in there that
Fence-
as part of
fencing
any
deli-
construction activities, the open space delineation shall be by way of, project limiting fence, such that
Right.
no clearing will take place within that area.
as well as
So-
the buffer.
as well as
As
the
well as
buffer.
the
Yeah, the
buffer.
buffer, you're right.
I mean, the side buffer.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, that helps.
We could do that.
Okay, so this is just a draft, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna make those changes.
And then get it back to us.
Well, that's up to this board. Do you want me to come back?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I think I'd be more comfortable with the wordsmithing on the lack of support for a variance, but what we're talking about, trying to say words, this encourage if you want the fourth lot, affordable housing.
Yeah, why don't you just
Then
break those
just-
up and rewrite them?
We have an extension until
Sure.
October 10th, 2020. That's your action, then, is the
An
extension.
extension to
October 10th.
October 10th. Motion
Motion.
by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor.
Are you gonna take positions on variances? or-
No.
No,
No, we're gonna reword that,
Reword
break that
it.
paragraph
I'm
into
just saying
two
generally.
parts.
No. Not unless we get a referral from the CPA, which we won't.
but that we can say what we're trying to impart without saying, don't give the variance.
Spin it a little. Thank you all.
Thank
Word
you.
salad.
What?
We'll word salad it.
Word salad.
You wanna try and jump ahead on 103 real quick?
Sure. Thank you very much.
103,
County Road
Center
39. It's a
number-
resolution. So this afternoon, sorry, at the last meeting, we had assumed the agency and we reviewed the secret documents, the type 2. And at that meeting, we had some concerns about whether or not we had sufficient expertise to analyze the traffic. So we had discussed whether or not you wanted to hire a traffic consultant, and my understanding was that you did. So this is just a resolution authorizing us to request the funds.
Okay.
So I would just note for the record, there is an introduction and a description and methodology in the VHB report. But
Well, we're really concerned, I mean, County Road 39, we just had a whole workshop on this. But the traffic,
so do you want to hire your own engineer to review and comment on this report?
no, I think doing a traffic report, isn't that what we're looking at? Or no? Yeah.
To review their
Oh, to
traffic
review
report
theirs.
and
Their
then-
traffic.
Right.
And make recommendations.
That we would be hiring our consultants to review Carl's report.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we're not doing our own separate report, it's just to review your report.
right.
Okay.
And also the consideration about parking in the rear for this property.
Well, that's separate from,
I know. I'm just reminding him.
Every time it's odd, you remind me.
Can you feel that?
This is a walk on that, right?
No, it's on the agenda.
Motion to hire the
I couldn't find it.
See you tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Thanks, Carl.
So, a
Second.
motion to proceed with hiring our own traffic consultant. Motion by
George.
by George, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
This is definitely on the agenda, huh?
It is.
I don't see it on there.
Look at the bottom of the page,
That
103.
goes through.
It's listed as number 1 in the
Number
middle
10.
of the original agenda.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, number 10.
all right, here's the Hangar Charlie
Thank
Oh, and the
revisions.
secret.
Okay,
Oh, I need a copy of that, I'm sorry.
Nope. You get one back.
number
There you go.
5.
Easy come, easy go. Thanks, George.
Hanger Charlie.
That's your pen. Don't forget your few lots planned there, Carl.
Yes, right.
Okay.
All right, so as you recall, we discussed this extensively at the last meeting, and I met with Wayne and his client.
Let me just get their names for the record. Wayne Bruin,
Wayne Bruin for Hangar Charlie, as well as
and
Vincent
Vincent
Gordon.
Guardiola.
Okay. So as I was saying, we discussed this quite a bit last meeting. I did meet with Mr. Bruin and some other staff members on their team, and we did make some revisions based on that. And I think Wayne does have a request for a few additional revisions, which we can discuss, and then we can hopefully adopt this resolution,
Good.
this report.
Can you give an overview of
Yeah,
the
what are-
changes?
So yes, one of the changes was they wanted us to expand on the project description, which I've done so. Another of the changes was the discussion about the building size and elevations, which we, made some changes, but, we're still recommending that they consider modifications, to break up the mass, facade changes mostly. And potentially, smaller buildings, more smaller buildings. Let's see.
That's
and
number
then,
8 on page 2.
Yes, that was page 2, number 8. And, there was an issue about the question of coverage for 7, so we tidied that up. And then, I did add number 15 just to clarify that it wasn't, that there had been, an intent to notify that there was a condominium, that the units would be sold. And then I think that was pretty much it. Those were the major issues. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, but those were the major issues, right?
Yeah, they're the major issues. With respect to the building, there was a reference to the Queog Hamlet Heritage Study and so on as justification, and obviously we discussed that and Teresa revised that, at least pointing out that you're not relying on that document itself for any of the recommendations. But some of mine are minor issues, but so for example,
Start from the beginning?
yeah,
give
just
us
on the
page
first
or-
page, and I mentioned this
I
to
actually would like to start at the beginning with
Mhm.
the project description, and
Well, I was even above that.
I thought we, okay, well, it's scary
So-
if we're thinking the same way.
Yeah. So where it says project type, it's only site plan review. There's no special exception.
Yes, I apologize.
And as far as the project description, it is brief, but you're relying also on the plans and the maps and everything else. But she does at least hit the high points on this. I don't know if there's something else you need
yes.
to put in there.
Significantly, from my perspective, is a description of this town zoning code that's unique to this area.
Well, it does have that description saying that it is in the.
Yeah, but what is it?
It's a planned development district, but
But-
what are you saying?
You know,
want
I had
to
emailed you.
cite the section of the code or
I
put
had-
attachment?
Well, you made a reference to
Yeah.
PDD.
Yeah.
And so that's not in here anywhere.
It is,
So-
it's the
It's
last
the
sentence of the
QR,
project.
it's the last sentence.
But more importantly, it's right above that where it says zoning district, CR 40 and Queog.
I think the point is this is a public document and the issue is nuanced and it could be useful to have that information in the public document.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm interpreting from you?
Well, I did not, I saw the words, but I didn't understand the background for what this specific code is and how it was supposed to be used. And I think from my perspective, looking at this application, it helps me say, well, gee, this is a pretty unique but a good way to use the land.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I mean,
So
I believe that
here's what I-
Wayne made the reference to the history of the land originally with the PDD and the fact that it was a disturbed site. And you gave all of that history, and I think that's explains somewhat about this planned development district.
Yeah, that's
which
what I'm
is-
saying.
Yeah, well,
I
maybe
think
one or two
I had
sentences.
asked for that.
Okay.
Yeah, one or two
So what I'll
sentences
do
sort of
is under,
summarizing it.
I'll move down number 2 under preliminary planning issues. And I'll add just a quick sentence saying the PDD was established by the town board in an effort to blah, 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 blah. And I'll just do a quick
Exactly.
sentence about the
Exactly.
history. And then that'll be number 2, and then everything else will be moved down,
Because I
okay?
think that really makes the whole report make more sense.
Makes more sense.
Okay, no problem. It's easy enough to add, Wayne, you don't have a problem with that, right?
Absolutely not. So, I mean, the
Back to you.
report is intended to give us guidance. So
Yes,
I mean, I understand it, but if you're going a little further, trying to help
Yeah.
others, it doesn't
And-
hurt.
And precludes people getting upset, not understanding what this zone
Well,
is.
this
and how
isn't the
it's-
final, so you'll have that opportunity to
Oh.
make them
So
known too.
I
But
think one thing I noticed in this, which maybe we can just So in the first sentence of the description, to construct a 70-unit recreational car club. Later on, we talk about car condominiums. At least in the draft report, I don't think it was changed at this point. And we seem to be intermingling that thing between a car club, car condominiums. Can we be consistent in what we call this and describe it?
Yeah,
It's a car club, but comprised of individual owners of 70 units. You know, it's a little bit.
It's a car club where you're actually storing cars on the premises, which are going to be in these units. And each unit is going to be available for sale to an individual, and the way you do that sale is by a condominium.
Okay.
So it's
And I understand that.
Condominium
I
is just a
understand that.
form of ownership,
But
so
it's-
each owner will be that, and it'll be no different than if you bought a residential unit and you're part of the club. That's what this is. This is the club, and you get access to your unit to store your car, and you get access to other club members and the
Common.
No,
common
and I
area.
understand from the discussion we're having. I think there's maybe a little bit of clarification. You want to continue to call it a recreational car club comprising 70 individual.
We did that
units.
in our description, which was a couple pages long. So I think the question here was how much of that does
Okay,
you want Teresa to put in this report, which is giving us guidance as to what issues may arise for the next application.
How about,
You
to
wouldn't,
alleviate that concern, I write, to construct a 70-unit recreational car club condominium.
that's what I was just gonna suggest, a car club condominium.
Well, she
And then,
had that
then
in her
retain that
before.
language
Change
throughout
it.
the report.
Further down.
It's on mine, I didn't.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem.
Okay.
I'm making changes.
Okay, car club recreation.
And then,
What else, Wayne, did you have?
The next one had to do with the recommendation or the note that's in item 4 in the recommendations, adjacent uses. And it says, makes a factual statement, the uses the southeast are pre-existing non-conforming, which I think is important here in the entire element. However, this last sentence, the applicant needs to acknowledge that the current use adjacent Chesterwood may result in fugitive sand and dust and could result in damage to collector vehicles. And I've told you before, other than we're going to acknowledge what our surrounding properties, but we're not going to put anything in writing that would otherwise prevent us from any future legal remedies if the neighbor was causing harm to our property. And I don't understand
Wait,
why
where
this
is that?
board feels the
Where is
need for us
It's
sorry, where is
old
it?
number 4,
for number 4.
adjacent uses.
Can you
On
describe the
page 2.
Chesterfield property?
it's an excavation use, an
It's immediately
excavator.
to the west. If you can
Right.
blow it up, you can
This
see
parcel
that
right
it's all those properties going all the way up to the railroad. And
I think our intention here was
it's an
to
industrial use.
make sure that the town was not liable in the event that there was damage to these vehicles,
Yeah, but how would the town be liable?
because we are approving the use.
So you're gonna say, asked you for approval, you approved my use, and I'm gonna turn around and sue you because you approved my use that I asked you to approve?
Some crazier things have happened, Wayne.
Yeah, I don't think so. And
I would
don't
take
think-
out the
I think
second
s-
sentence.
That's fine, if that's what.
Okay,
if
council is
that's what
recommending
the
that.
council
Yeah.
decided, that's fine.
The first sentence, just factual.
What else,
The
Wayne?
next one on phase 2, and just for clarification, and I understand and maybe it needs to be rewritten a little bit, but the way it states is the applicant needs to confirm in writing that current plans do not include a second phase of either recreation or residential uses. So in the pre-app, we said, we're asking for the car club, but we also reserve the right to develop the remainder of the property under conforming zoning uses. This is your recommendation of what we need to supply to you with the final application. At that point, you'll see our plan, whether it includes development of the remainder of the property or not. But my client is concerned that this is some sort of statement that you're not going to permit us to develop the remainder of the property. So if you can reword that in the manner you're looking for,
That, I can change it to confirm that at present,
The current
Well,
plan.
it's not at present because this is your recommendation of what we need to do with the final application. So you're telling us at the final application, you want us to do what?
I'm trying to avoid segmentation, right? So if you guys have other plans that are not being discussed outside the park club.
Yeah, but you already stated that in the previous.
You can just write current plans do not include a second phase of either.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll
That's
do that.
restating the
That's
No, I
fine,
know,
but
it's
there's
just a
another
fact.
section where you, number 5, you talk all about that. So it's why number 6 is stating maybe something different.
Yeah, and I think it's just a rephrasing to the earlier point too about Chesterfield. You know, you could just put that as a fact in there, so it's disclosed in the report. If you know.
Well, she does. She says the use of the adjacent
being
properties.
removed.
The first sentence does that. So
Oh,
whether you
okay.
want to
Right.
identify it as Chesterfield and who the owner of the car repair or whatever junkyard to the east, you can do that, but I don't think it's necessary.
I just want, again, you know, the 5 and 6 are hand in hand. I just want to confirm that we're not segmenting the project. That's
Yeah,
all.
and my point is, I don't think 5 and 6 should be two separate things if you're trying to state something that in the final, just what you're trying to tell us is make sure we identify what our project is, and if it's not including the
Just
entire
combine them.
development, what is the
Just combine
potential
them,
for the
Teresa,
balance?
because you're talking about the yield map, potential development of the track, phase 2, segmentation, it's all one.
That's fine. I can
Area.
combine them. No big deal.
I have to renumber everything now.
8.69%.
Oh, she's taking notes.
I just renumbered all of them, now I have to renumber them again.
Well, you know what? I'll send you a draft tomorrow.
Okay.
Or an amended copy.
Building
Okay.
footprint is
We'll never remember.
Yes, we will.
1,002,
What?
1,023, 441.
123, 4. So the next one is lot coverage, number 7. Total
Coverage,
of
yeah.
4 buildings having a total gross floor area of
Mhm.
168. Well, gross floor area is not lot coverage, because there's the gross floor area includes the mezzanines in the buildings.
Right, but she just says coverage, she doesn't say
Yeah.
lot coverage.
No, but she's
But the
having a
coverage he's saying
total
is
gross
less.
floor area.
I can change it to say total footprint.
Yeah, the footprint is 123, 441. And
No
the,
problem. Not a big deal.
right.
Is-
And-
What's
and
the
that's what-
8.7?
That's what the 8.7 applies to.
What is it, the total footprint?
123, 8, 441.
123, 441. That's on the plans.
Okay.
And number 8, I appreciate what Teresa did to make it more that the applicant should consider, but I just want to let you know my client still is trying to make sure that the board understands the vernacular for the architecture, the scale, and everything else is based on, number 1, we are in the middle of an industrial area that we're adjacent to the railroad and the Suffolk County Airport. But more importantly, we're building a recreational facility. We're not building a residential development. We understand reference to residential development and residential, but we're going to go back and we're going to go and try to give you examples such as SYS, which is in the middle of a Superfund site in a recreational building and what is there. Perhaps other recreational buildings, and that should be what you start with. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to look at facade changes and other things. We understand that, but we want to make sure what is our example here. There's a reference to the larger residential area, but we're 1,500 feet from the street. You're not going to see this building from your larger residential area. So these are the things, I understand what's being said in consideration, but I think the board needs to understand what you're going to see when we come back. That's the vernacular we're going to use. We're going to try to address the thoughts that have been expressed in here, but my client is trying to use. Now, on the other hand, our clients took to heart your comment that this is not Palm Beach. I think you even referenced the Reckler buildings.
I did.
And so we're going to look at all those things.
Right. I mean, I made a suggestion to Teresa with this language that that buildings, that the whole complex and the whole compound consider, not avoiding, I don't wanna use that word, but not to, you didn't take the wording down in my email,
I
did
don't,
you?
I'm sorry, I don't recall it.
That the vernacular of the buildings need not be industrial, is what I was saying, that there could be some modification of that. I mean, I don't think that we need to direct you to say Borton Vadden and anything of, I mean, it's the architectural vernacular of this compound.
But I think we've seen many examples, and Wayne, you're aware of this, where people come in for site plan applications, and they're able to incorporate elements of the Hampton style of design of buildings.
We hear
Listen,
that, but I would also say, so for example, a well-known recreational building which no one gets to see unless they're a member is the clubhouse at the bridge. Tell me how much Hampton's vernacular went into that. And that's a recreational building clubhouse. This board approved it. It's not able to be seen.
Well, the Hamptons
It's
vernacular
designed for the
today
members.
has changed a great deal.
But just so you
now
know,
it's
is,
modern
and just
and
to
it's a lot of
answer the
modern
Palm Beach vernacular, this building, just because it was built in Palm Beach, it's not the Palm Beach vernacular. Actually, this comes from an international thing with car clubs throughout the United States and in Europe and so on. So that's where that design came from, not from Palm Beach. So that being said, these are the elements, the points. We hear what you're saying, try to put some Hamptons into it. Well, we're gonna go to the Hamptons and look for recreational buildings and what has been done and so on, so that we all know what recreational buildings are and should be or have been and what considerations. But also take into account we're in the middle of an industrial area, Superfund sites, and you're 1,500 feet from the street where the public can see this.
So,
You can't see it.
let's keep in mind that this is a guidance document, right?
Right.
Just to give suggestions, and if you come back and you say, okay, well, we have all these buildings that are recreational in nature, and they've got the Hamptons, you know, some Hamptons feel, this is just saying, hey, let's look into those things, right? It's not saying you must do that.
We know
It's
that.
saying you
I just
should
want the
consider.
board to know, but your language suggests this, and we're gonna look at it all.
So my language.
As you know, we ask our clients to address everything you raised, but we're gonna go back and the question is, what do we really rely on in helping to design this? And we're gonna identify that
So
for
I
you.
said the details, design details are quite specific. A broader statement, I believe, would go a long way in encouraging the applicant to consider a less industrial architectural style. That's up to you. We've made some recommendations.
That's a
some of the-
different, that language is fine if it's in
Fine,
here.
I'll change it, no big deal.
You heard our references, the regular buildings are great, and we do, I mean, we get all kinds of industrial type metal buildings that we ask for stone
Is it the metal that your
aprons.
concern is only?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want this thing to really look good. I mean, if people are gonna have a condominium car club, they really want a class act, I would think. Yeah, the metal, we avoid.
Wayne, I don't know if it's necessarily all just the metal facade. I think it's just, there's also the concern that it's a solid wall with no breaks in articulation or you know, almost like a mini storage building. There's concern about that too.
So we want them to reconsider the architectural
Fine.
styles here.
I can just write it so that it's less industrial in nature. And leave it at that. Okay? Anything else, Wayne?
No, I mean, you kept in the part about the pond, but you said if the event the pond is not there, a restoration plan, and we don't propose a pond at all. We looked at we're still considering whether that could be incorporated in any drainage plans or otherwise, but just so you know, that's the area where contamination has been in the past, and that's the area that we're required to clean up. by
Is
the
that a
DEC.
man-made,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sand pit, the whole thing was.
So it's just filled in with water?
It's all sand, there's no standing water there.
No, there's no water. We don't intend to do that, if anything.
It did, I agree. One of your plans did show,
Just wanted to confirm that that's not the
that it
case
was a
and that
color,
it's adequately addressed.
Otherwise, all the rest of the comments,
That's good.
and Teresa, I would commend, she did, a lot of good work.
She did, good.
The only thing I want to mention is that it may not be productive to box the town board into construction accepting a pickleball court.
Well, the references here go to town board, we're already making contact with the town board, and there's some other thoughts about other recreational uses, so if they don't want that, the key is our client is willing to consider something, but, and if the town board says they don't want anything, then so be it. But if they want something else, we'll consider it. But we started that discussion and you identified it here based on what we presented, so that's fine.
Right, pickleball, the rage may be over by then.
It's controversial, but.
No, you know what, the
Not,
thought
not,
behind
not
that
according to the 10-10 wins tournament that you can't get into.
Blowing their knees out.
Right.
Well, just so you know, the only pickleball courts, public pickleball courts are at SY, adjacent
And you
to
can't
the
even get in there.
SYS. They're not SYS, they're town,
Yeah.
maintained by the town, and there's nothing west of the canal. So for
They actually have some
taxpayers
at
of the west of the canal, they don't get the same
Hampton
opportunity.
Bays, you know.
Do they have some?
In Red Creek, yeah.
So they're just putting them in
Yeah,
there?
Red Creek. They have a few there now.
I think they put where
So
the
it's one of
tennis
the
courts
issues.
were.
I think they're using the tennis courts.
Communities everywhere are still grappling with the noise from the pickleball
Yeah, the
courts.
noise, right.
That noise.
So if you were to put, rather than behind somebody's house on each individual
but-
lot, would you put it in the middle of an industrial area that is screened and so on and
no,
so
it's
forth?
definitely a better
Good
place
distance
for it.
for
You're
residents.
still thinking about this as an industrial area because there's one construction company and one salvage yard. But everything else around that area on South Country Road, Fairfield Road, Homestead Avenue, Peters Lane is all residential. So it's not really an industrial area. You have two industrial uses that are pre-existing non-conforming.
Right.
Everything else is residential. So even where you have it there, people who are living on Homestead Avenue and Fairfield Avenue and South Country Road will hear those pickleballs. So, it's not an industrial area. Underlying is CR40.
We were
and
just
there's
going based
two-
on the recommendation that came from other town officials, that's all.
Okay. Well, just would like to maybe set that part of it straight.
Good, well said, and that's what Teresa was moving forward on.
Yes.
Good report, Teresa, I'm glad you worked with Wayne. So are we going to adopt this now?
With
As amended.
With a little few changes in it?
Thank you.
Okay, motion to adopt the pre-submission report as revised by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. Thank you.
Do you mind
Thanks,
if I do these?
Teresa.
These are super quick.
Yeah, you have some extensions, right?
This first
Oh, no.
one is Alexander Breland, Mr. Breland is here, but it's just assuming lead agency, it's a standard 2-lot subdivision.
Number 13, old 13.
Oh, 13.
New
Number
15.
15.
New 15.
Just add 2.
I can't seem to find it, but it was, so, we were just here looking at this, for Galt. This is the lot. This is the lot where you had said that they may not need to be noticed, regarding the flag strips,
Oh,
but that
yes.
we were gonna require them to be noticed. It's a 2-lot subdivision. The only reason it's a type 1 action is because it's in the agricultural overlay district. We did send out coordination letters, no one responded, so we are assuming lead agency. As it's a standard 2-lot subdivision and would otherwise be classified as a type 2 action, I am recommending waiving the public hearing with a written 30-day comment period.
It's in the APOD too, isn't it?
Yes, but it was formerly agriculture
Yeah.
back in the day.
So 30-day written comment period?
Yes, 30-day written comment.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
All right, and then,
We have one more?
yes, this is Kajowski. I made the amendments as
Oh, right.
recommended by
Okay, good,
council.
good, good.
Teresa,
this
what
is a
about
walk-on now, right?
2297 Montauk?
2297, they have requested it be adjourned,
Okay,
until
What
December.
number is that, do you remember?
not 9.
So old. Yes, it goes from 3 to 10. 2297?
Yes, wasn't it old 9?
Old 9 is, off the agenda.
The agenda, they requested it.
And where are we now?
And we are now
That's walk-on that
Oh, and then
we did not-
Kajowski.
This is a Kajowski
This is the part
part
of
we had this morning.
point of, number one.
So this is an add-on. Go ahead, Teresa.
So again, this is to allow for, the transfer of the property, subject to an agreement with the contract vendee establishing the bond. And I made the amendments as advised by council.
We okay, Council?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is there any encumbrance on these lots when they're transferred, Christine?
What do you mean? No. We're getting rid of the whole using the lots as security. They're free and clear, and they already transferred one by deed anyway. They weren't supposed to.
So can they be conveyed,
Yes.
beyond this one-time
Yes,
transfer?
but the owner's still gonna remain responsible for the improvements that need to be done.
The recorded covenants would prevent us from transferring any individual lot or the whole thing again until the road's put in. Otherwise, we'd have to come back
Is
and
that
ask
stated in
again.
here?
No, it's in the prior covenants.
It's in the recorded covenants that are
It's
already
in
on
the
the.
existing property,
Yes.
okay,
It's in the existing covenant on the property.
okay.
And that was the language that council had me add, was that the contract vendee is going to sign an agreement saying that before they transfer the properties, that they're going to take responsibility for the improvements. And then after the properties are transferred, they're gonna file to require.
But that's in another document that's
That's the
already
document that
recorded.
I will review, that this is subject to the town attorney's office approving. We don't have it yet.
Okay, oh, okay,
And that was the condition council asked me to add.
okay.
But the important thing that the original covenants conditions will remain in effect, that they
Correct.
can't convey.
Correct.
Unless all the construction work has been done.
Yes.
This is essentially a one-time exemption to that to allow the transfer of the whole to our client.
So that they can put the improvements in.
Okay, motion
Motion.
by Gloria and second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa.
Okay.
Back in order?
Anthony, yeah, back in order. Let's see.
Just,
Anthony, you're 225 and 251 Butter Lane,
Yep, we're gonna
old
do
number 6.
Yep, we're gonna do an extension of the action deadline until October 10th, 2024.
To October 10th. Motion by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor to that. We did Metro Storage, right?
No, we
No, we
did
didn't
not.
do
No, we
that
didn't,
one.
you did it.
Metro
Is that
Storage,
you?
that's,
Yes.
yes, me. That's the Lecon Court cluster
Yes.
there of
Yes.
industrial property, so we did the, Metro Storage buildings, did the inspections. Site looks really good, actually, and so I'm recommending release of the maintenance bond in the amount of $6,667.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion by George, second
Second.
by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. Okay. Prena, you're up with North Edge Stables LLC.
Photographs.
Absolutely. Baby Guardiola.
Anthony, were you able to pull up North Edge on that overhead?
I do have the new order, I'll put this one on top because it really hasn't changed, it's just a calculation. Elevations, maybe we could just reference them in here, if we need to, since it's back in CR.
So for the record, Wayne Brillen and Vinnie Gaudiello again.
You tag team.
Thank you.
This is the revised. It is, that is the most up to date. Yeah, there's a small version of that. This is the north end stables, the proposed development for the project.
Down here.
It's on the back. Yes. Towards that back.
Oh, yeah, okay, good.
That's helpful.
For the proposed development of the private horse staging facility on the Red Reserve at 819 Lumber Lane at the southeast corner of Southampton.
Brenda, you'll have to speak up, we can't hear. I think it's easier for us.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah, they have a mic.
Can't hear.
We have a table mic. The table mic.
We have table mics here.
That's at the southeast corner of Scuttle Hole, Lumber Lane and Scuttle Hole Road. Before is the draft pre-submission conference report, which I did advance to Wayne and we discussed, and just off the top, there were a couple of items that I included in the report that really didn't apply, and I'm just letting you know because I've revised them since the original draft. That had to do with building height and APOD, and we reviewed the rest of the report, and there's discussion items highlighted throughout the report for us. So as I mentioned, this is an ag reserve created by the subdivision map of Caterfield. It was approved by the planning board and filed with the county in 2002. CR 80 zoning. It's in the agriculture and aquifer protection overlay districts. It is a vacant lot, and there's a conditional trail at the south end of the property, 25 foot wide. And the applicants represented a private easement or building restriction line 500 feet off of that south property line, which is right about here. The property gently slopes to the southeast, and it contains prime farmland soils. The project description, the application proposes the development of a private horse staging facility with various horse stabling related structures, open field areas, parking. I didn't include this, but I'd like to add an ag labor housing. And I listed all of the proposed improvements. I could read them aloud if you like. I did advance a copy to the board, but I'm essentially calling out all the structures, all the open spaces that are paddock or fenced in areas, the access drives and the trail
And the percentage of things that are built compared to property size.
Yes, I'll get into that,
Okay.
the issues, yeah, definitely. And this green map was submitted a couple of days ago. There's a revision to that calculation as well, which I will need to revise in the report.
So this is a new configuration, or it's
No,
the same?
same
Yeah.
configuration,
Okay,
all it is identifying area, open area that goes to the horse calculation, but it may go to this other calculation that you're trying to create as well.
Yeah, I
Is that up-
reference
is that up?
sort of
Can
a
somebody
disturb-
put that up?
It
on
is,
the-
it's up there.
Do you want this plan on here?
This, yeah,
Oh, the plan.
plan.
The report references, I think we're going in the like a disturbed footprint where I do some math, and those numbers will get revised as well.
Anthony's right there.
Here's Anthony to save the day.
Yeah, after I locked it instead of going a full screen on.
That's not what it looks gonna look like.
We were the boss.
Is it a horse? Is it a horse that was, or no?
No, that was mostly Saint Michel in France.
Sorry.
Thanks, Anthony. So as Lynn stated, the layout, nothing's changed.
Okay.
The only difference is, the open space area calculation, which lends the horse density.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The ag reserve is created with the purchase of development rights agreement or easement. Article 4 of that includes grantors' rights, which consist of agricultural activities as well as structures and improvements. The activities include equestrian rights as defined in 301 of Chapter 301 of New York State Ags at Marcus. And allowable improvements include those necessary, incidental, and accessory to the ag activities, including housing for agricultural labor. I did have a note in here.
What
It's
page are you
provide-
on, 2?
The bottom of 2, yeah.
2, yeah.
The very last paragraph. I did have a note in here, provided the applicant has received prior written consent of the town board. There was a little bit of, that was coming from the agreement. But since then, Christine and Wayne reviewed it, I reviewed it with Christine, and the applicant would not actually have to go to the town board, they would just have to come to the planning board.
Is this in reference to the development rights that were sold? Or
It's
what?
the easement.
Yeah, the easement
The
says
easement.
you can't build anything without the consent of the grantor.
Uh-huh.
I mean the grantee, which is the town
The
of
town.
Southampton. However, chapter 330, section 50 of the zoning code, which is about agricultural overlay and the development rights, that is the section that also 330-50D refers to. You can't build unless you get a approval from the farmland permit administrator for things like fences, or you get a construction permit approved by this board. And a construction permit is processed in the same manner as a site plan. And that's what's being asked for here. So I think what is being recognized, that's the process. We're here properly. There is no additional town board approval necessary.
What is the easement reference?
Exactly.
DML 247 or 401?
No, it
No, it
actually
just, it
references
talks about
this
the transfer of development rights and the
References.
section that
in the
Wayne said.
preamble. It also references the code.
It's a
Can you
caption
just
in the
say which
packet I gave
page?
you.
It's on the first page.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, this
You'll
easement?
see reference to
Oh, the
330-50.
development rights.
And that's the development
What page
rights
on that?
easement.
Wayne?
It's on the first page of the easement, which it says, whereas 330-50 of the town zoning law and 247 New York State General Municipal Law authorize town board to purchase the development rights of the lands within the ag overlay pursuant to the conditions, limitation, terms, and provisions set forth in said statutes. So it's recognizing 330-50, and that's where the town board empowered this board
The
to
planning board.
grant construction permits, which is what you've done for every horse farm on, whether it be lands preserved by development rights or lands created by subdivision, ag easements. And 330-51, however, is the reference which has to do with county development rights, where you still have the empowered to review a construction permit, but you need the additional review of the county farmland committee.
And they would only go to the town board if there was some issue that they were trying to get clarification or an interpretation of, which is not the case in this instance.
The thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm not sure where it connects the dots, is, you know, this is in the ag protection overlay district in Bridgehampton. And how do we protect the opportunity for food production in the future? You have a, you know, development right in the middle of the parcel, and
It's not an enhanced right, so you can't constrain them to food production. You would just
We're allowed to
constrain them.
perform agriculture, which includes equine activity.
But you can, it
Which
does
I
also.
completely understand, and so the request, again, with other applications has been a consideration of preserving that potential for the future and potentially maybe consolidating the hard
You'll
structures.
get to
You,
that.
you have the right to
Yeah,
ask for
you have
things
some
for other
other
reasons,
issues.
because you have view shed also, that's part of
Yeah.
this.
Yes, you should.
And you can constrain.
You gotta balance a lot of things here.
Yes.
Going to page 3, public comments. Pre-submission conference was held on July 11, 2024, concluded the third reading and comment period. There were comments received both at the hearing and the written period. I did advance this to the board. Do you want me to read these into the record or?
No.
All of the comments.
Yeah, there's a couple of pages here of comments.
You don't have to read them.
Yeah.
Again, the intent is to allow, you're giving us guidance as to what to do in the
Yeah,
final application here, and to consider all the comments that were received.
I know this is a closed hearing, and I don't
You
believe.
can't
This is not a hearing, sir.
This is a closed meeting, but I'd like to make a point of order.
It's an open, wait, stop. It's an open meeting, but there's no testimony to be taken.
This is not testimony.
There's no comments to be taken.
The last meeting, in the audio, which we heard later, there was a very serious misrepresentation to this group in that meeting.
That's
by the
testimony,
proponent.
I would be object to this.
And the proponent was asked
Jackie,
if the
Jackie,
winery
you can't, you
objects,
have to stop
and when they
him from
consulted,
speaking.
and they were told
We are not-
they
Okay.
were
not allowed to
consulted.
take
Sir, you have to take a seat.
We
You
are
have
not
to take
allowed
a
to take
seat.
the comments.
You have to take a seat.
Well,
There is a
your
time
proceeding
when
has
they're
been
on it.
presented to Mr.
Sir.
Bourne, and he's not bringing it to your
Sir.
attention.
You have
It's
to
a very
take your
serious
seat.
misrepresentation to this board.
And
Do you
that's
wanna
false.
get,
Can I?
don't
Okay.
respond.
I know, but it's
This
false.
is not,
You shouldn't take
you'll
any
have
of
an
that
opportunity
testimony.
to speak at a hearing when it's set. This is not the time for that.
Okay, just,
Sit.
There's a
No dialogue, no dialogue.
No doubt.
you can put it in a letter to us if you will. But the.
There's no record
process
right
for
now.
this at the planning board meetings, we don't take.
Jackie,
we
don't
take
engage.
it, Okay.
They represented that the
No,
winery
go
was
ahead.
myself.
Please don't go into it.
They weren't, and they objected, and they didn't know that till after the comment.
I
period.
understand what you're trying to say. We're gonna you need
Thank
to sit
you.
down. This is not the place for that.
Well, there is hundreds of comments in there.
You get security then?
Not
You
yet.
wanna get security? You don't have to, I'm gonna sit down.
Okay, go ahead, Prina.
Items to be submitted at the site plan application are the application itself, the special exception application, and the site plan inclusive of the conditional trail, building elevations, floor plans, landscape outdoor lighting plans, and engineering information.
Can I just comment there is again, it's not a site plan application, it's a
Yes, the
construction permit.
permit.
Okay, so we're changing the nature of this application to
Well,
be.
no, we're
It
not.
was
It's-
always
it was
a
always
construction
construction
permit.
permit.
It's more terminology relating to the permit.
You do it like a site plan, but it's a construction permit is the application.
So it's a construction permit and special exception application.
Construction permit / special exception.
Yeah, and I have it, I updated it on the first page where it says the application type, and I think I made an edit somewhere else, but I'll just make sure the rest of the totals is that where it needs to.
And again, we're in pre-submission.
Pre-submission.
That's it.
So we have a long way to go for
Yeah.
neighbors,
the process,
for
sure.
neighbors to speak.
There'll be another opportunity.
Yeah, just making a statement.
Getting into the planning, preliminary planning review and the issues, the first item I've listed is the use. The ag reserve is created with an easement, and the use is restricted to agriculture in order to protect the area as an aesthetic and agricultural resource. Per the easement, as I've already said, the question rights and ag labor housing are included. I will remove the last line regarding prior written consent of the town board. The applicant has presented the proposed development of a horse stable facility as private use only, which raises the question, or at least the discussion, of the said use as a bona fide agricultural use.
If I may comment on that.
That's been really one of my questions. I don't understand the ag use.
You need to understand agriculture is a business commercial use.
But this is
Okay,
for
number one,
but
and
isn't this
number
private?
two is all agriculture is private because the public isn't coming onto the property to perform the agriculture, the farmer is. So that's a basic underlying premise. The fact that someone is privately operating a horse farm has no bearing on your inquiry. Has no bearing whatsoever, except the suggestions that we might be a horseback riding academy, which is a use that is open to the public, where you can invite the public to come and ride your horses. That's not the case here. So we are, just like every horse farm, a private horse farm. It's not a public, it isn't owned by the town or anybody like that. It's not open to the public. It's a private horse farm. It's a private agricultural use.
But you're going to be, it's in what's considered production, and I'm using that term loosely because you are either boarding or something. It's not an academy, or it's not where they're inviting the public to come on. There may be boarding horses there. That's the commercial aspect of this private use.
So my understanding, and maybe incorrectly, is that if you have the horse farm open to other people who have horses and they pay to keep them there, as
That's
opposed
horse
to
boarding.
That's boarding.
as opposed to this is just for a person's
Correct,
personal use.
correct. You're right.
And
No,
is
you're.
that a business? And I get
That's not the second. The first was, the latter is not. But the first is what they're saying they're doing. They're boarding. That's the
We're gonna
commercial
do what
enterprise
the
of this
state
private
ag
farm.
markets,
I was just
the
gonna
Equus
say that
case
this-
said is that we're raising, breeding, boarding, and sale of horses.
Yeah, so you
And they have to have $10,000 or more of production.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
they-
I
they're
think
going to do
that
that.
was
247 reference with you too.
The what?
The general municipal law 247 that defines agriculture and includes equestrian as part of that, because that is what's referenced. We have all these other code references, but I think it's important to examine that definition. Do you have that with
Sure,
you? I don't.
I don't.
Okay.
No, but 247, the general municipal law, says the municipality can acquire interest in open space, including agricultural resources.
Right.
So that's authority to do it. The definition, why did they get into 301 of the Ag Markets Law, which is all about preferential taxation? It's because there were no other definitions anywhere else in the state law, and therefore that's what was always referenced. Use the definitions of what agriculture and what the state ag and markets
Right.
use. And by the way, when I submitted my letter, September
You
10th, I
submitted it.
attached, it might be helpful for you to look at.
I read it twice and I'm still confused.
Okay, but that you can have
Are
your
you
counsel,
still,
but what I
do you
attached.
understand what I'm saying?
what I
That this
attached-
private farm is going to have a commercial enterprise on it. That's the commercial aspect of the use, but it's owned privately. Like, you understand?
But what is the commercial use? of
Boarding.
it?
Boarding.
They're going to be boarding other people's horses.
That's not what I understand. That's,
Okay.
That is what we're doing.
That's what.
And I think the
what the-
confusion came because there was, I believe there was testimony that this was just somebody's private, personal horses that were just going to be there. And I think over time that understanding has changed, and it is going to be other people's horses that are going to be
And it
staying
may
there.
not be other people's horses, and the way you do this, just like everybody does, the property is owned by an entity. Individuals will come, and the business will be there, and that business, and it could be my own horses that I'm paying to board there.
What I heard the applicant sit here and tell us was that she, as a little girl, always wanted to have her own horse farm, and she wants to build this facility for her horses. I didn't hear anything about boarding to other people, and that's been
She
my
breeding?
my question from reading the stuff you sent me and what I heard that young woman tell us, and that they seem not
Okay, well, we'll
consistent.
clarify that for you on the final application, but
Okay,
we're
can-
asking to do what every horse farm in the town of Southampton does. Raises, breed, and trains horses. These are expensive show horses.
They're breeding on site, Wayne?
I don't know if they breed on site, but if that becomes important, we can get that information for you. But you do know that this is also, just like other horse farms, in that particular case, a show, they're not here 12 months a year. So they're traveling and showing throughout the country, and this is nothing different. So for example, the Edge of Woods Farm, Campbell Farm that you approved, 2 Trees, nothing different, the same activities. We
Well, I
want the
have-
same rights and
I have a friend
activities
who
that they're
boards her
doing.
horse
Okay,
at Edge of Woods Farm.
they do.
But so
So
the-
can,
It's not
Can I
supposed to
just
be a
have,
shell,
can I
though,
just
I
have
guess
a
is the
clarification? I'd like to say something about Ags and Market. I do think that the use should make reference to the Ags and Market requirement. Ags and Markets has always been certainly an issue for this board, and certainly for me, in that it's New York State Ags and Markets, and not, which completely overrides home rule. And it was written for horse farms that are 100 acres, 200 acres with lots of horses, and we are minuscule compared to that. We are tiny. But I also understand that part of the Ags and Markets, if you fall under the Ags and Markets, that there has to be a commercial aspect to it. You have to generate $10,000 a year. That's where we are having some difficulty here, because if it's a private.
I believe
I
that
think what
if they're
Wayne's saying-
breeding
Wait,
and showing horses,
Yeah.
the transactions are high above $10,000.
Right, so that it then, so that
I'm gonna
requirement is
tell
there,
you,
right?
my daughter is an equestrian, and we, my daughter boarded her horse, ponies, whatever, at Two Trees and at Bullford Stable. If you wanna know how much rent we pay
Expensive.
for the boarding and everything else to the owner of the property, I could send my daughter to college 5 times.
Well, you still have to work, Wayne, so.
Well, that's another story, but I'm just saying is we'll have no problem meeting the income requirements for the taxation issues.
So, but my question is, that is a requirement of the Ags and Markets law, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's-
Exactly, but I wanted to point out, in that regard, and may be helpful, is I provided, in my letter, I was addressing a couple points, but more importantly, I provided you with the guidelines for review of local laws affecting commercial horse boarding operations and commercial equine operations. This is produced by the state Ag and Markets, and they're giving you guidance, everybody guidance. And what this was intended for is not just town board adopting a local law that's going to affect or impact agriculture, but it was also as how you apply it. So in here, particular, it referenced 301, it talks about farm operations, it talks about the raising, breeding, and training, and it also makes the distinction, what I put it in here for is the distinction between that which is the boarding operation versus the horseback riding academy, which is open to the public, which they address in here. But you might want to look at all this, because one of the things, as Jackie's pointed out, is Ag and Markets has over the town of Southampton is the ability to come in and enforce violations of the Ag and Markets law because you're not applying your rules correctly to promote the agriculture of the state. So they can come in and there's enforcement powers that the state can come in and overlook. And I understand that was something that was coming up on the Edge of Woods Farm. There was some involvement with them on that, where a complaint was made. But anyway, yeah, I'm not here, but I put that in there, and it might be helpful for the board to look at that going forward, because this is not the only horse farm you're dealing with.
No.
It'll
Yeah,
be
so
helpful to deal with them all.
The application that was put before me, from what I heard, was a private, I want to keep my horses. It was not a business. That was never articulated.
You need to know she's in the business.
So the
Okay, but
completeness
George would like to
Just
speak.
maybe from clarification from what you're saying, the business generation of revenue is strictly a business transfer between the entity, which might be an LLC, for example. I'm not sure what it is.
Could be.
Versus the person who's might be a financial officer of the LLC. They're paying towards the LLC. Is that
I don't know.
Right.
It could be that, but
could be that or
but
something
it also could be borders, which is the thing. And
I
I
think if it was
understand that
borders,
our
it's-
client said that. Our application and the written material doesn't say that. We're asking for the horse farm use.
Wayne, if
in
it's
its
if
entirety,
it's
just like you
borders,
said.
it's more easily understood. If it's a single shell
I
game
understand,
between.
yeah.
So to verify, thank you for taking us through the stitching together of the law, because I think that's important and maybe should be included in the report, again, for transparency of decision-making to the public and a record for all of us. Verifying a business use in terms of completeness of the application could be useful to submit a business plan with
Well,
the
we're not gonna
application.
do that because our
or-
business plan is our business plan and that
Or
is
to
private. But what we're gonna
outline-
do is say, we're gonna perform agriculture as is allowed. And that includes what I just pointed out to you, raising, breeding, and training of horses. Whether it's my client has 26 horses and there's some transaction taking place, which is primarily for tax purposes, or she has 10 horses. But this is no different. You approved the Deloriers farm, who is an international show jumper and is in the Hampton Classic Grand Prix every year. This is no different. This is no different than Two Trees. This is no different than Edgewood Farm. This is no different than the Campbell Farm. They all do the same thing.
Help
Did
me
you go
help
back
you.
and ask them for their business plan and the whole thing? You didn't ever question it. It was never questioned.
I wasn't there.
I know, but
I wasn't there
saying
either.
you're all
a tool that
relying
could
on
be
your
useful.
records.
No, was I.
You
to,
better understand the records that you already, all I'm looking for is consistency.
Okay, so I think what we're saying is that in the use, you need to make reference to ags and markets and what's required by ags and markets.
I don't think there's some question that there's a bona fide agricultural use.
Yeah, I can revise that
Yeah.
and
Just a couple of sentences.
Yeah.
bring it back. Or we could-
Okay, so site layout and scale.
And the scale, the applicant did request a preliminary referral to the, Ag Advisory Committee. It was discussed at the September 10th meeting, and, the board received the committee's response, instead. In summary, it states their opposition as the scale and the layout is inappropriate for protected agricultural land. I did include their full response, in the packet to you. I could read through some of it if you'd like.
Did the easement
Is it in the packet?
identify a building
It's
area?
toward the end. No, I didn't.
They don't always.
It's not in here.
Most of them
It's
don't.
at the, it's toward the end.
Give you the
Sometimes
flag.
they give you like a
Packet,
20%
it's
set
the
aside,
last
but this did not.
It's,
Done
it's
that.
part of the whole packet, not the actual.
For the most part, you want the
It looks like an email.
Oh, okay.
It's towards
Got it.
the end of what I included.
Yeah, it's next to the last page.
Yeah. Again, they just talk about the scale being inappropriate for protected land, the extent, of the development, and that would require, relocation of much of the land's natural soils, which is Bridgehampton silt line. They don't believe that the development should be located centrally to the reserve. Sorry, just trying to read. And yeah, that they were unanimous in their sort of objection.
But their key objection was the scale of it, that
The
it's
scale and the location
And
and I suppose, the impact to the soils is the biggest, where I have a lot, that I just find.
They say it shouldn't be on farmland. Where would they propose to put those farms? In a residential subdivision?
I find it very interesting that the Ag Advisory, and I don't know who's on it anymore, but in my day, it was the farmers. And the farmers were the ones that actually asked for the regulations that you now are required to apply, the special exception standards. And that's the standards that this
Next
board
to the last
applies.
page.
Um, One of them is interesting, is there isn't anything in there about lot coverage, and that seems to come flying out that this is too much lot coverage. And the Ag Advisory, this board has struggled with that for 35, 40 years, and the point is, no one's changed it, and there is no requirement. The only underlying is the lot coverage, which is building footprint. That's in the underlying residential zone. So that being said, there's nothing in there, their suggestion 10% lot coverage, which they're now talking about other things like driveways and the like, which is not an element that this board has applied. That's not lot
Well,
coverage.
what we have in some of the horse farms, there's no doubt about it, because I've made many site visits.
We've just had one that came in.
Yeah.
That was looking at getting out of their development area.
Right, I mean, so we're really looking for a compacted, unified, scale here. Did you,
Yeah, well,
Jeff needs to go.
going to the 5th page, the planning staff had we've had a preliminary review of previously approved horse farms, all of which I think were already referenced in this meeting by Wayne. And we note that the scale, it's noted that the scale and the layout of the overall proposed project may not be in keeping with the easement with respect to protecting the area as an aesthetic resource. If the application proceeds as a bona fide horse farm, which Wayne suggested that it is, the applicant may consider reducing the overall developed footprint, the size and quantity of the structures, and the size and quantity of the structures. And I've put in some for instances, the site layout could be concentrated and or consolidated. The ag labor housing could be either incorporated into other structures and or relocated to the southeast portion of the parcel. Maybe reduce or remove the central courtyard, reduce parking, reduce the garage. In addition, the preliminary staff reviewed these the previously approved horse farms, and found that the average sort of disturbed footprint, and we're talking about buildings, walks, and drives, or asphalt areas. It was an approximate average of 10%. The numbers that I pointed out here, that this application is disturbing 45% or 13.6 acres of the property has been clarified since Raymer submitted this plan, highlighting all the open areas, so that those numbers come down significantly, but they're still over the average that we've seen so far. So the walks and structures in the drives come to a total of just shy of 6 acres, or 5.927 acres, which is closer to 20% of the reserve area.
So I think this comes down to definitions and rules versus intent of the ag overlay district, and the protection of soils was for the Bridgehampton loam to preserve some of the best soils in the country and the state for food production. And we may not have the right tools that we need in terms of the way that this reserve was put into place because of the definitions of ag and markets, but we can make requests that are very reasonable to this applicant to help us uphold the intent of the legislation that created this reserve, and that is up to them.
But I would, just in this paragraph alone, so number one, you're suggesting a standard that hasn't been codified. Not saying you can't consider it, but one of the things, and this wasn't presented at the public hearing, and I don't see any information, there's a reference to previously approved projects. And supposedly the average is this. And before you go there, I mean, that's factual information, let's make sure it's accurate. But for example, I went to one case that you're well known, Edgewood's Farm, the Lauer project, 30 acres, town development rights easement. Didn't have to go to the town board. This board approved it. It had a horse stable of 36, where we have only 26. 17,000 square foot stable, greater than our stable. Indoor riding rink, 23,940, which is about 60 square feet of less than the maximum. We're only at 21,000. Covered horse walker, utility buildings, other buildings, manure pits, 8 pad, the whole thing. If you're going to look at consistency, we're less than what you approved for this project.
What year was that?
2012.
Wayne, what do you have total acreage
30
for?
acres.
A lot has changed since then, Wayne.
Not really.
You don't know how
The
much
regulations haven't changed. The easement didn't change.
The conditions have changed.
What condition?
On the east end of Long Island.
What changed?
Additional
That
traffic.
affects your regulation that you can apply under the standards.
This is
that you-
planning.
We
have to address the conditions at hand.
Wayne
Current
looks to
conditions.
precedent.
Well, that's all you have. If you're gonna say there's new conditions and
It's
you
a
wanna
balance of
change the
both.
regulation and standards, your job is to advise the town board and maybe they'll legislate.
Well, rather than do this, are you objecting to the language that's in the report?
Yes.
So
you
what
know,
is the language that you're
first
objecting
is
to?
There's been no identification of the previously approved and how you come up with a 10%
So can you put
standard over
that
these
in?
numbers, it doesn't
I
reflect
could either
it.
put it in, or I could say that it should be review, if the planning board wants to, they
Review
can review with
existing
the applicant at
application.
the site plan application or at the,
Yeah.
conception.
That's
And,
fine.
and if you have comparable, if you have Edgewood, I don't know if you have Campbell, but I think that
I
those
think you wanna get
numbers-
every horse farm you've ever recruited.
Well, I looked through a dozen horse farms, and every one that, Wayne has referenced are, I believe, the ones to be most comparable to this, which were Campbell Ranch, Delorier, Two Trees, and Edgewoods. Edgewoods is an exception with the size of their buildings. They do have two that are, two structures that are greater than what's being proposed here and previously, all these other applications that I'm referencing. But yeah, I mean, we could talk about that a little bit
So so just
more.
amend
I
the
can either
language.
include it,
Yeah.
or, but then it becomes a thing of what to include.
Amend it so that that's
Right.
going to be part of the consideration at site plan.
Yeah, just say you're gonna look at other projects and may consider what you've done in other past projects, but
Shouldn't
we'll
we have
certainly
a-
gonna look at every one of them.
We have a,
But to say that you already did it and didn't identify what it is and tell me there is a standard that hasn't been, legislated, I'm concerned.
shouldn't we
That
create
isn't
some
what
sort
I'm
of
saying,
a,
just to be
But
clear.
that's what this says.
Okay, yeah, so, we ask all the time, outside of legislation, definition, et cetera, for a practical consideration of current conditions. That is what I'm asking for.
Yeah, but what is the current conditions?
We don't have to get into that now.
Yeah.
Existing
Her point is what
I'm-
it is, just,
put
we're
that
gonna
into
amend the
the
language.
Horse farm.
Shouldn't we have some sort of a neutral boilerplate schedule with all like the last half dozen horse farms and similar size, acreage, horses per acreage, lot coverage? I mean,
That's
I think
what,
it's
that's
good
what she's
For
doing.
the site plan
That's what she's
application. I
doing.
did start one
That
for
would be
myself
good.
for my own reference,
Yeah.
and I have a table.
That should be part of the
of
report.
When it was done.
I mean,
how
we've done,
big.
Otherwise,
But you don't-
we're
but-
really just winging it.
but Dennis,
saying
you
this
also-
is too big.
Dennis,
Well, we didn't get that many letters on the other one, so that's fine. And
Let's
you
have
know,
a
otherwise,
baseline.
it's not the proper way to plan.
we've
It's
done
not the
that with
proper way to
with
plan.
convenience stores.
We've done this. I've done maybe a dozen of these now. Campbell and Edgewoods, at least a dozen. And we have the data now. We shouldn't be winging it.
Do you wanna address that in this report?
It should
I
be
think
part
it
of the
should be.
report. It should be the attachment.
Attachments to
or
it,
something.
yeah.
Some of the
And of
property
course-
Well, I
side.
think what you're gonna say is that you're gonna consider that information at the final application, because it'll
Right.
take her weeks to pull all this together, and I don't think it's appropriate at this time. And we're at a deadline, we gave 2 weeks extension, so.
Well, we should have it
We-
some, at
You
some.
wanna identify
At
the
site
stuff
plan
that
that
we
you're
need.
gonna look at that.
We're gonna
Not
do
part
it
of it.
Addition to
anyway.
current conditions, we're gonna be
So
looking at
do you wanna
past.
submit it? Do you wanna give us an evaluation of the
We're gonna
last
do it at the
6?
final application.
Well, that doesn't
That's,
help
we're
us.
gonna
Yeah.
ask
Submit it
when they
early.
make their application,
Yeah,
if that's
we
gonna
should
be
do
part
that.
of your
That's appropriate,
consideration.
We're just notating it here so we can
Yeah.
refer back and make sure that we did
Right.
Yeah,
get
this
all
is
the information we
pre-submission,
need.
so
Yeah.
somewhere it
And one
should
of the
be
biggest
generated.
issues, of course, is alteration of soils, of prime soils, which is a big issue with horse farms. It was a big issue with Edge of Woods. It's a big issue with Campbell.
2 trees.
2 trees, I mean,
And we've
these
got
are
them coming
prime
back.
soils that are not to be destroyed.
The soil should,
Altered.
the soil composition should also be part of what is looked at in those other farms.
Well, the prime, if they were all prime, otherwise you wouldn't have
Yeah.
preserved them.
But they're all
on
different
the other
levels,
hand,
but they're all different levels.
it's really
Look.
not gonna be.
You know,
Sure.
originally,
One of
you know
these
this,
sort of
Wayne,
planners.
as well as I do, and when these easements were done, these were farmers growing food. The horse farms were not even on
This
their
was an
radar,
acquisition
you know?
with the town board.
Well, no, it's ags and markets over here saying you can have a horse farm, not you must grow food. I mean, we have a food consideration.
No, but your
You know,
town
that
board, your
is
town board
serious.
who legislated and acquired these development rights, purchased it and allowed all these agricultural uses. They have a program now.
No, they didn't,
They
the town
enhanced-
didn't allow them.
Yes,
Ags
they
and
No, no, no,
markets
the,
does.
but the
board
town,
could have said at that time, we're not
adopted
gonna allow
ag and
horse
markets,
farms,
not
or they're not gonna allow
enhanced.
nurseries, but they didn't.
They weren't on the, from my understanding, that didn't happen until after this particular application was preserved.
But they have gone, just
That's
as a
correct.
point of reference, they
Yes.
have gone back where they've wanted to and purchased enhanced rights, even
Enhanced
where
rights.
they've
It's a
already done.
voluntary thing.
And that's the
Yeah.
food production, if somebody wants to do that. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not the case here.
And
So
they
we're
have done
When
that
did
only
that
after
to
the
be?
Conic Land Trust identified to the town board, hey, wait a minute, your current process doesn't do that. And they did this as a voluntary program of enhanced development rights.
Right.
it doesn't matter, we've
They
gone back.
haven't legislated, the town board hasn't changed the regulations or otherwise.
They have,
They
this
say
is not
agriculture
legislated?
can be performed. It
No,
isn't-
you can go back, you can
balance
do
the
enhanced
soils,
rights,
it's
but
not
you have to
there
go back
solely to protect
and
the
have a
soil.
willing seller that wants
Yeah.
to do that, and then we would add the enhanced provision to the existing easement if they
Right.
don't, if they have one already,
Right.
and we would pay for that. It would further devalue the land. It was
They-
meant to be a tool so that farmers could keep the farmland in their
Food,
families
and produce food.
food.
And
It's
the town
twofold. One
has
is it
gone,
eliminates those uses, which horse farms, nurseries, wineries, and has an affirmative farming requirement.
Right.
That's the enhanced development rights.
Yeah,
And
and
as
they-
council said, that's a
they've
voluntary
purchased
purchase by the
some
town
of
board,
that
and they didn't do
recently
that
that
here.
way.
They did,
Yes, but
They could
the
have.
land trust.
When was this reserve created?
They would have had to.
It's very recent.
Okay, so
Considerable
2016 is.
But
when
it doesn't, what I'm
They
saying
could
is,
go back.
we have gone back and purchased
I've
from
represented several
way existing
clients, the
prior.
Rogers Farm, who sold their development rights to the county and then turned around and sold the enhanced development rights to the town.
We've done that several times.
So yes, this should be a really robust report. So,
More robust.
Well, it is, but there's a lot of,
Yeah, I
a
mean,
lot of, there's a lot of
done
stuff
a
that still has
fabulous
to be
job,
done.
but we're,
Yeah.
what we're doing
well,
is
we
we're,
need to be able to point to stuff. We
Yeah.
need to have a
I mean,
record
it's,
here.
it's Lumber Lane, this is a critical area.
Tell
Okay,
me.
Agriculture, yeah.
But again, you're on the public side, if you wanna go do something that isn't, go look at what's allowed. We're gonna get into the next one, which is site layout and view shed. And look at the ag reserve immediately across the street. And one of the things you drive by there and drive down Scuttle Hole Road is, how much of those view sheds have you done to protect them? Other than Atlantic, everything is green giants, and that ag reserve immediately, right here is
Right.
hedged out.
We kept a
You
view
can't see a
shed,
thing.
and I remember establishing this view shed for 2 trees. That development, remember, that whole corner was a view shed, and we preserved that. I mean, we fought for it. I mean,
Right.
what else have we got? Otherwise, we're gonna be boxed in by
So in that, in
green
item
giants.
Green
4
giants,
is where I referenced the view shed and how all of the development essentially is located to the reserve.
What number?
Number
Four.
4, it's page 5, Christine. Site layout and view shed. The applicant may consider limiting the scale of the overall development as noted above, or in previous items, relocating and or reorienting the structures further towards the southernmost property lines, and perhaps positioning the open space closer to the roads to just further,
Augment that.
further
scenic view.
retain the scenic view in the open space, especially at that corner. Wayne did mention that maybe it's important to identify what view sheds the planning board, really wants to protect, and I think that corner is a big issue.
So, and printed properly, reference to the comprehensive plan in '99, which was 25 years ago, and since then, has anything happened in regard to that recommendation? No, it's left to your piecemeal trying to do things when a development application comes in, and it didn't give you any further guidance as to how or where or what to do. But nonetheless, the question here is identifies Lumber Lane as important in Scuttle Hole Road. So now you have to balance some things, and there's some other elements. And when we sat down in the work session and talked to you about it, there was a reason why this was placed here. Not here, not here. And one of the things is the other balancing, view sheds. View sheds important to who and what. And if it's the public, I think we recognize, my clients recognize, and we provided a substantial part of we're not putting any structures on the northern part of the property. Similarly, and this board deals with it all the time, the only adjoining residents to this property are the 4 lots that were in the Taterfield subdivision, which are immediately to the south. So we thought it would be important view shed from those residents and residences that are in that location, not the ag reserve over here that's all screened off. And we're also next to the Channing Daughters Winery, which is in this location. So if you're gonna put improvements near whatever, and preserve view sheds. Now, it's mentioned in here, when the developer of this subdivision sold the property to the current owner, Stephen Klein, he provided a reservation, a restriction in the property to this owner, Stephen Klein, that he would not build any buildings in the first 500 feet. So we privately are respecting that. That isn't something you have to enforce, but we need to tell you that was part of our balancing. It's that restriction, but more importantly, we're not, we can only get so many feet close to this anyway. There is also a trail here, potential for a trail.
Where's 500 feet?
500 feet is right here, that line.
It's this line, it's
We
this
don't have
line
to
right
honor that, because they didn't notice it.
So we're literally 2 feet off that
Right,
line.
but it's not in an easement or anything, this is a
No.
private arrangement.
It's a private
Okay.
arrangement, you could do that, and then we're in a dilemma.
Yeah, but they're
But
not
then
gonna do it.
again, it's like, what's the what's the view shed? Is the view shed from this area not important, looking at the preserved farmland behind, which is a vineyard and the Peconic Land Trust easement on,
I think they mentioned the view shed in the
Sylvanus.
easement, that's the one that should be trying to protect.
which
The
is
one
it?
that's in the easement. I think it talks about the view
It
shed in
talks
the
about view
easement.
shed, but it
Yeah.
doesn't say where that is.
I believe it's
Where are
it.
the upside down trees? Just
Yeah,
curious.
that's the orange,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sylvanus is
That-
behind it, that's the whole open
But
space.
the view shed, I mean, Bridgehampton is, the
Well, it's just
history, the
construction.
heritage is a farming community. And so the view sheds for whatever farms are left, and that's a question, are to be preserved, and that document exists in the master plan. I mean, we've relied on that, we use that, that is the document. And as I said, we did it with 2 trees, which is Scuttle Hole.
So part of the
we would do it
question
with this.
here is view shed where and how much, but there's gonna be buildings on the property, so you're gonna be viewing the buildings, and there's a layout in the design. There's suggestion that this be moved elsewhere, but part of it is you got this large building, which is visually gonna be important from Lumber Lane as well as Scuttle Hole Road. What are you looking at? You can take those off of that, but your view from Scuttle Hole Road is gonna be this broad expanse of buildings. So we thought it would be wise to put these buildings here to soften the view and break up that view of that large barn.
Well, there are.
I mean, that's the
That's
thought,
one
we
way.
wanna know,
That's one way to
You
do
know,
it,
or
there are
I
other
know
ways.
that they're highly exposed and maybe they should shift to the south or
Yeah.
the southeast, so I don't know. if
There
that's a
are
big
other
question
ways,
for the board.
I think the whole issue here is there are other ways to lay this out. This is your ideal plan, and some of us have some suggestions
What are
to move it around.
So
all we're getting is
you've
broad
identified
things.
them, right? So the consideration of the view shed, the consideration of the prime agricultural soils and,
Again,
development over them
I
in the middle.
appreciate that, but
The-
that didn't tell me anything. The question
Do you want him
is
to move
where's
them
the view shed?
southeast?
Are you saying
That's what,
that
did you say that?
the view where?
She wants you to do it southeast. She wants the stuff moved over, the board
Everything
wants it
pushed
moved over
south.
To the
southeast.
southeast back here.
Right, and so
200 feet off
I
of
hear
the
what you're saying
trail, and the
there
south
as
of
well
Armor to
about-
the southeast here.
You're gonna put,
Just
you want us
like
to
another
jam it
property.
towards those residences in the trail?
No, I mean, I
And
think
block
that
the
would,
view
I
to
think that
the
would
other
be
preserved
sufficient.
farmland to the
So-
east.
You could buffer that easily, with 25 feet of buffering, 50 feet.
For
But,
what?
I mean, this is a very spread out horse farm. The Campbell horse farm is very condensed.
Because it's on a small lot.
It's
but look,
condensed, and it
compared to
has
what
all
Edge
of the
Woods-
ingredients that you need to operate a beautiful horse farm. So we're talking about staff housing, could be incorporated into one of the buildings, that's part of the compound. There are lots of, I can't say lots, but there are alternatives to this design. And I think we're happy to go over it, to review it.
Yeah.
Yes?
But you have to give the applicant direction,
Well,
where
we,
you want their competing interests here.
I think.
You have to tell them what, that's the purpose of
I
it.
think one of the discussions was to incorporate the staff housing, as other horse farms have, into a second floor of one of your barn buildings.
But be careful, because the cases where that occurred
Mhm.
are buildings that were not stables, not the indoor riding rink. They were
No,
other
it wasn't
buildings
that.
where they had a tack room or,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
office.
Tack
That was
rooms,
not,
yeah.
which we don't have. We don't have that separate building like Campbell Farm or
Mhm.
somebody else where they said, okay, we want to put it on the second floor. We're not proposing that. And we're not gonna put, for a number of reasons, you're not gonna put fire code or otherwise, you know, the staff housing incorporated into a stable. We're not gonna do it in the indoor riding room.
No.
And we're not gonna
No,
put
no,
it in
I
the garage.
I understand that.
I mean,
So
one
that-
option,
You know, so I'm telling you that right now, and my client, after reviewing this, said, that's not gonna happen.
one
For those
option
very
is
reasons.
you
We're
could
not
take
gonna
the
put the safety of our
two-story housing, convert it to
employees.
a single story, but then you'd lose some more space, so that's kind of like a trade-off.
Do you need
Oh,
that many, do you need that much staff housing?
Well, that's a
we have-
determination that
we
you have
s-
to make later.
We stated right up front,
That's not for now.
we have 12 employees, and the housing is for the 12 employees and perhaps their families. There's 8 units. So some of them will be together.
What's the 15,000 square foot one-story garage?
That's for all the farm equipment, the tractors, everything. We gave you a floor plan, shows exactly what's going on in that barn. That's where the horse trailers will be stored.
I think
Wayne,
we've
what number-
captured like the critical issues to flag in the pre-submission report, which Brenna's done a good job of doing, and then we're gonna consider all of this at site plan when the application comes in, and so you know that we'll be expecting some thought on additional layouts or bringing us through the thought process, which obviously has occurred. You've shared some of that with us, you know.
Is there anything in the report that needs to
But
change?
the report
Well, again, you
flags a
go
lot
through
of
this,
things.
obviously, the number of horses, you need to revise that because that wasn't correct. So ag labor housing, reducing the scale of the housing and the quantity. So what you're telling us is don't house all our employees on
No,
the
I
site.
think it says quantity of structures, but maybe I can clarify that.
I think also.
But there
like,
is
you
a
know,
certain,
these
but Wayne, there is an accepted standard within the industry of how many people you would use for stabling of horses of this
Exactly,
many
we
sizes, and
presented
that's,
that.
right, but that's what she's saying.
Right, but no, what this says is, but she just clarified, is it says reduce the quantity and location of structures. So, reduce the quantity, I don't understand, were you saying don't house them all, or what are we talking
No, or
about?
maybe put it in one building. I think what,
We'll say that, but I mean,
does the board want the report
Not the
specifically to address that these buildings, whether or not they become one, or be used to the southeast, like I've been stating throughout? And does that southeast become the southeast of their developed area as they're presenting it now, or does it become 200 feet off of the 200-foot setback? Is this the new southeast location here? I don't know if we want to
That's
say
for,
that in the
that's
report,
for
or
their
do we wanna-
consideration, I think, you know, we'd like to
maybe
see
we
some
could do a-
alternative plans that,
well, so if we did
consider
what she
these elements,
suggested,
and I think-
is we gotta be 200 feet, so there's
Well,
gonna
let
be
me
a
finish.
200 feet strip that is gonna be useless.
let me finish. Because I'm trying to help, okay? There's a lot of considerations and competing priorities in this project. It's allowable according to Agamarcus law, that's good. The report should allow the client and, you know, their representatives to consider those competing priorities. And I think when you put the language in that says the client should, or the applicant should, or this needs to affirmatively happen, it, you know, the request really is to consider it for discussion when you are coming in with your application, to know that we'd like you to consider these items and for us all to discuss it together to get to the best
Right.
solution that addresses some of these competing
Otherwise, you don't need a
priorities.
planning board. You know?
So, you know,
Well
where
said,
there's
Kate.
where there's a law,
Well
you
said.
must, and where there is not a law, there's a consideration and a discussion, and that's the process that we have to go through.
I believe yes, and based on that, without giving you actually firm direction here, but suggesting some, that this has to be or should be more compressed. It's a very spread out compound of buildings. Are they all necessary? Can some be reduced in size?
Maybe multi-purpose.
Yeah, so this is what we're looking at, really.
That gets us into the special, page 6, the special exception uses and the quantity of, the number of horses and the size of the building. Since I wrote this report, we submitted, their plans with the open space calculations, which dictates how many horses you can have on the first 15 acres and
So how many can they, I think they.
So they're proposing to stable 26 horses.
26.
The calculation then, or the open space allows for not 35, but 41 horses.
Mm-hmm.
But it's open area, not open space.
Open area. So that those calculations are spelled out. I will just modify the numbers based on reviewing open, based on the calculations.
Credit, from my knowledge, when you say you can have 41 horses, that's assuming that all the accoutrements that a horse needs will fit into this space? What does 41 horses mean?
So it's a calculation based on the area, the land area.
Just land.
It's land. So you have minus the structures and the paths and the drives, all the leftover space which you see highlighted here in green could be used for that calculation. So in this case, they have they're left with 24.004 acres. The first 15 acres allows for 21.78 horses, and then the 9 remaining acres, if you divide it by 20, translate it to square feet, divided by 20,000 square feet per horse, which is in the code, you get the remaining 19 horses altogether.
19 or 2.9?
No, this 2.9 is based on the calculations that were initially submitted, but they've resubmitted and
that's a
clarified the
revised plan.
calculations. Yeah,
Well,
it's the calculation.
This clarifies
Yeah.
what the open area is.
Okay.
And
Before,
so
I think
everybody
it must have been a
is-
blanket, it
So you
included
have
some of the open space.
16.368 open area? Is that?
24.004. That number is, the actual number is more than that. And it's not because they changed anything, it's just because they pulled out all
We
the.
provided clearer numbers.
I guess what my
Based on
only
that plan.
confusion is that if you have more horses, you need more horse stalls, and you need more places for them to roam, and you need more staff to take care of them. So there's still enough room to do all of that?
Well, not on this plan, but if they ever wanted to increase over 26 that they're presenting, they'd have to come back to the planning board.
So what you're looking at is the special exception standard that says it's town board legislated, this is the maximum number of horses density that is there. So we're just like a subdivision. That's our yield. We could have up to 41. So we could come to you rather with a barn with 41 stables, which would obviously be larger, and we might need more staff or something like that. You're exactly right. Our client, however, is only proposing this. It's appropriate for you to consider. So, for example, Campbell Farm came back to you and trying to increase the number of horses, and you approved that. So, based on other open land that they were able to obtain. So
it's a reduced density plan.
But this is, our client is only proposing 26, but if sometime in the future, they would have to come back.
So I will revise all this math, to reflect what's been proposed and remove all that language regarding the presentation, because we've already done that. The special exception, part of the code also talks about the size of buildings. The code limits the overall size of the tractor ring structure to 15,000 square feet for parcels less than 24 acres. On sites more than 25 acres, the planning board may consider a structure larger than 50,000 square feet, which may include indoor stalls, and in no case shall any of the buildings be more than 24,000 square feet. The applicant is proposing 3 structures that are greater than 15,000 square feet. So
Mixing a little apples and oranges. That section has to do with the indoor rink, not other structures. So there's no limitation on the size of the structures. The only limitation is the indoor ring, and that's the standard you just applied. And in this case, we're proposing 21,000, which is 3,000 square feet less than the maximum of 24. But there's no limitation. So for example, on the Edge of Woods, the stable was 17,455. That's because they had 36 stalls. There's no exception.
No,
That
not an
was-
exception, I'm sorry, an exception. The applications that I did review, that was the one that did have, the second building greater. All of the applications that I looked at, and I will reference Campbell, Delory, Two Trades, only have one building that's greater than 15,000 square feet, and it's limited to the indoor arena.
And this has how many?
Three that are greater than 15,000. The indoor arena is 21,000.
21,000.
And that's the largest structure, is that one.
But that standard you're trying to establish,
Yeah, I think
that
we'll have
doesn't
to take it back to
exist,
the
but you
final
gotta look at the
application.
functionality is Edge of Woods had 36 horses. They need proper sized barn. We have 26. You gotta look at each one on a case by case basis with that
Okay, and we're
respect,
gonna-
but there
we're
is
gonna
no
have to-
magic standard of 15,000.
Well, we still have several things to go through, and
We
then
still-
we are
we
under
have
action
a lot of other
deadline, so I don't
applications.
know,
Yeah,
if
it's
we go through all
5:15.
of this, would the board be comfortable with adopting this? If we would even go through tonight, or today? Would we need another extension?
Well, the purpose of the pre-submission report is to flag the issues that will come up for the applicant at the time of application. I feel that this report does do that.
Okay. So you're saying that
We could adopt.
We
it.
could
It provides
adopt it.
guidance, and
I'll
we come
clean
back,
up
we
everything
still
we
have a chance
discussed,
We
review
modified
it
it.
again, and then I'll just email it out after it's finalized.
Okay.
Um,
So that's your
just-
resolve, right?
I think
Based on
that-
the
were there
changes
any
you're
other-
offering.
Yeah.
Well, the only other one you have in here about referral to historic districts board.
Was that that was in the master plan, I think you referenced? In number
I don't
five?
know, it's at the bottom of number 5, but
Yeah.
there's no
It's not
vacant
Bridgehampton.
farmland, there's no building.
Okay.
It is in Bridgehampton. It's in
Historic
Bridgehampton.
district, yeah.
I called that out because it is in that scenic,
Yes.
area. I don't know if the board, I could remove that if the board agrees, or I called out the
Can
landmarks
you
as well as
reference
the
what
area.
number?
Yeah.
It's number 5 on page 5. That's towards the end, refers to the central
They,
landmarks. and
I think that's required. I mean, with all the buildings that we've been looking at in Bridgehampton have had to go through that.
landmarks.
Yeah. It's, what's it called, Anthony? The
It only goes.
historic designation.
It only goes.
Oh, but it's only for the main street, so
And
this is
it's
ours.
one of
It's
the
not
north
part of
Probably
the
doesn't, yeah.
I don't think it does.
It's not in.
So I'll
Okay.
remove that and just mention the ARB.
It just goes a couple of blocks.
Yeah,
either
a couple
side
of blocks.
Past
It's
that,
up
and we
highway.
have the secra and the architecture. There was an item under architecture I think we should really discuss.
I have a question, sorry, just to clarify point 5. So it's not in the historic district, but it's referenced in the comprehensive plan, so should we leave that in
You're
there?
charged with applying.
Sorry?
You're charged with making sure it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, not the landmarks board.
Right, no, we'll
Yes,
take the
and-
landmarks out, yeah,
Yeah,
because
she's
it
just
doesn't,
saying
it's
keep
not in
part
that
about-
category, but
About the
keep,
comprehensive
keep the
plan, I think
comp
that's good,
plan.
because when we're gonna go back through, we're gonna reference this report, and that will be an important thing to
right,
note.
and we've got about 5 minutes,
Thank you,
Okay.
sorry.
because we have other applications.
We
that
talk
are also-
about architecture and everything is sort of in keeping with a horse farm. The ag housing I wanted to talk about, as well as the garage doors on the garage, that front lumber lane. This is the facade I'm talking about. It has garage doors throughout. It's face lumber lane. The question becomes, do we want them to consider rotating the building? So all of that becomes part of the
Internal, I would think,
parts of the layout and not exterior.
and the better side looks,
And then maybe the considerations of the architecture on this ag housing, whether it gets removed or not, maybe it look less like this and more either in keeping with a farm or traditional house.
I agree with
a horse
that.
farm.
for sure.
Okay. I think everything else.
So everything's been
The
discussed?
only other comment under 9, you properly classify this as a type 2, but then you said it's in the archaeologically sensitive area.
Oh, yes.
And yours says will be required of phase 1 and phase 2, but I don't think you've done that.
No, I put that in as a discussion, but I understand it's farmland, so I'm happy to remove that.
Read it. Page 7, landscape and screening, you have italicized board should
Oh,
consider no
yes,
hedge.
we didn't cover that during, the couple of parts.
So that's part of the view shed.
Under view shed, yeah, I have it, I just referenced it there because it hinges on what we said under view shed. I called out a couple of things, a couple of options, either the board consider a scenic easement requiring, no hedging, but maybe more appropriate would be consider no hedging along Scuttle Hole Road and Lumber Lane as a condition of the site plan review.
I think that should, language should say shall mandate, not should consider. Shall mandate no hedging along Scuttle Hole.
Consider it a final stage.
Yeah.
Just related to that, there's another one that talks about under 11, the double fencing. It's already, as you know, paddock fencing.
Right.
Goes
Yeah,
the entire
and that was a
thing.
question through the board.
Well, you need the double fencing.
You need the double fencing inside.
Yeah, but you got
All of these areas
fence paddock, fence
are
paddocks.
fenced as well, so.
You have this fence already around the perimeter, and then you have the fence paddocks. I don't know if we really need that, but.
With the horses, I mean, they could put the horses out here.
But there is a fence.
Yeah, that's a question for the
But
board.
they're not gonna
Okay.
put them out there without
I
somebody
don't-
intends to.
We don't have to.
It's considered fencing, that's all.
Okay.
We don't have to make this decision. All right. So can I have a motion to adopt this report as modified by Kate, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, thank you. So, do we need, we don't need the extension to adopt.
No, yeah.
Kind of a great job.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good.
a lot of
Yeah.
it.
Even
And
down
I
to
appreciate-
folding in,
A lot of the research.
about the sections and everything like that. It's
Oh,
very easy
thank
to look
you.
through and find what.
And you've done a lot of good historical work
She does, her
to
report.
help us
I
understand.
got a lot of help from the rest of the planning department, so thank you.
Good job, team.
Take the credit now.
Take the bow.
Thank you.
Too bad you didn't have the president of the Hampton Classic answer all those questions.
Kate,
Well,
Now,
They
let
can
me
hire you.
just,
Kate. Hey, Dennis.
Anthony, let's give us the extension so we can get the Jane Firth numbers.
First, we're gonna do an extension.
Extension of the extension.
Extension until October 10th.
Jeff, what do you have?
Okay, Jane Firth, number 3. Motion by
I'll
Dennis,
second.
second
nothing
by
else to do.
George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
We did 314, Crest.
Chrissy, Jacqueline Chrissy
Yep,
is
Wayne
next.
asked for an extension until October 10th, 2024.
Are we loading up October 10th? Boy, man.
I will be here.
I
No,
think
I'll
we
push some more off, don't worry.
That's my turn to feel under the weather.
What'd you say, Wayne? Is that you? That's
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So what happened is, we had to track down the county engineer to get his
Yeah.
recommendations, and we got his report, but it basically repeats,
Everything?
cut and paste from his pre-app report. It was like Anthony and I scratching our head going, wait a minute, you didn't review the drainage plan and all these things, so we gotta track them down.
You gotta track them down, okay. So October 10th, motion by Dennis, second by
Second.
Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 11 is done.
And let's go to the second, let me just do my last two. Number 18, 64 Lewis Road.
Number 16 for you, probably.
Let's just do this real quick.
Thank you, incomplete.
Speed pass it.
Old
No, it
16.
it's actually is complete.
Oh,
You're
okay.
good sick, you don't get it.
It's all done.
Wait, she wants.
I do, but I can't decide when I'm in the middle of voting.
You have the good stuff, George.
So what are we doing with
68
it?
Lois Road.
64 Lewis Road,
64.
I'm recommending deeming the final application complete and scheduling the hearing for October 24th. 2024, the reason is because one that I thought I had on for the 24th, I don't.
Okay, so it's 1 for 1.
And I thought it was incomplete.
It's not.
It's not incomplete, so it's complete and schedule a public hearing for October 24th. Motion by Dennis, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor. And then
32 South Lower.
Phillips, 4-lot subdivision.
Complete,
complete
11,
schedule a
14.
hearing.
Going to be complete, we're going to schedule this hearing. I don't mind going into December for this one.
Okay.
We'll jam it up to the next.
We only have December 12th.
Good, December 12th.
inclusion?
Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, all in
12,
favor?
24.
Right.
Always look at
Opposed,
Exactly.
abstentions, 6 in
You don't need
favor.
to worry about my walk-on, it's not urgent, I still have to get ARB for it.
Okay, great. So what's left, that we have one for Prena, right?
What about Bud Hampton?
Oh.
Huh?
Yeah. I'm recommending that Bud Hampton be deemed incomplete. It's missing maps and elevations and stuff like that. Plus, I gave this board the traffic report, volumes
we have
1
to
and
read
2.
that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know yet how I'm handling that. I told Carl I wasn't sure yet. So when we reconvene with a complete application, I'll let you know how we're going to handle it.
Okay.
So number 20, old 22 Bud Hampton is deemed incomplete. Motion by George, second by
Gloria.
Second
Yeah,
by
but,
Tom. All in favor, opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. Seth,
Yes, last but not least, some site.
20, are you site disturbance
Yes,
Oakville?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oakville.
I have 6 Joseph Francis Boulevard and Mount Misery. This was brought before the planning division. I'm sorry, I can't really rush through these.
Take your time, take your time.
You gotta recoup after almost clocking that guy.
Yes, well, I thought I would just put that to an end, right?
Sergeant at arms for us.
That did.
Quite.
Jack,
Mount
did you want to
Misery,
comment?
6 Joseph
Yes,
Francis
I will.
Boulevard.
In a bit. Right now, not right now.
Whoa, here. I can't reach that far.
This is in the APOD and the Archaeological Sensitive Overlay District. We received this application on August 14th of this year.
Sorry.
This has 100%, this has been 100% cleared.
Yep.
The planning division received a letter on July 15th from the chief building inspector determining that the lot would be allowed 85% clearing. Since then, I have received a revegetation plan depicting 15% revegetation. I worked with the applicant at a few different iterations in order to pull the revegetation back to as close to this area here, which is owned by the town, as possible. With the restrictions placed on this property being, it has 2 front yards, and this is the only area they could build. We resulted in a strip of revegetation following this, and then into a revegetation up front. I've displayed two plans there in front of you. They do have the necessary natives that were indicated on the list. These consist of eastern red cedar, shadbush, holly, bayberry, and sedge grasses.
And is that a pool in the back?
There will be a pool house and pool in the back. This is a shed. This all came about because of a building permit for pool house and pool.
I walk by this property pretty frequently, and I will tell you, it's a real good example of somebody coming in and clearing everything out. They took the building, the house down, and, they're rebuilding a much bigger house. But it's, the example we've talked about, they come in, they clear everything out,
Right.
and then go to work.
Yep.
So.
And say the contractor did it,
Right.
The chief building inspector did look over this and determined that if I go back through aerials, it was significantly cleared back prior to '84. It has been cleared for a number of years.
Right. Right. But to put this new house in there, they did more.
So you're satisfied with the re-veg plan?
The revegetation plan had been sufficiently altered to meet as many of the requirements I could put, given the restrictions of it being a corner lot
Okay.
and the 85% clearing.
Good. Any other questions? Motion?
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Gloria, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor. The Mount Misery, lot 21.
That's what we just talked about.
Oh, that was that.
That's just it.
This is
That was Oakville, so you want Oakville?
That was like Mount Misery. Now we're going to Oakville.
then now we're going
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, $6.
Lot 40.
I was wondering why you're walking,
Kristen?
you know, any squad.
I don't have all of
That's right.
Reggio.
No, not all that.
So the Oakville County Estates, lot number 40, $6 Drive in East Quogue is R20 and also in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. This was brought into the Planning Division on November 15th of last year. The applicants submitted a survey that depicted 14.8%, and then 14.8% overcleared. Upon my first site inspection with Teresa, we determined that the survey had labeled natural vegetation incorrectly, and that it was 100% cleared. It was all landscaping.
Bad people.
Well, it was a misunderstanding. And the applicant just agreed that she would remove all the non-natives, come back with the original revegetation plan, which was to remove 3,000 square feet of lawn in the back of the property, and to also revegetate the areas of natural that were coined natural. So she was unable to get a surveyor for financial reasons to come back and redo the survey, so we just decided, in effect, anything that was natural, that was coined or characterized as natural on the survey will be revegetated. And she has submitted a plan to do just that. So we are going to achieve I believe it's 8,160 square feet of revegetation, and following the list of natural, of native species, predominantly oak varietals, pitch pine, bayberry, blueberry, and switch and sedgegrass. So she will meet 33067.
You're satisfied?
But clearing restriction on metro.
Any questions? Motion by Dennis, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. Seth, you're done, but Prentice still has one.
No, there's, what about 630 Narrow Lane?
That's Prena,
Oh,
630 Narrow
have
Lane.
Seth.
It's Prena,
It is, shall I go?
please,
retrieve her?
yeah.
That might be off.
Yeah, I think she might have.
It's a site disturbance, though.
Oh, she does that.
Let's take it off.
Doesn't do all of it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not on
Can I
my,
get a default approval if it's
so this might just be updated.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that
so
would,
it's not on the new one,
Yeah, it's
okay.
not on the new
So
one.
630 Narrow Lane is off. I think we've done it.
yes.
Motion to adjourn by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. George, you're good.